And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, and thank you for your patience here this morning as we got set and ready to go on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We got a lot of great stuff set up for you here today in our 2 hours plus that we're going to be coming to you, and appreciate you so much for being a part of the show up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City here for you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Once again, Great Lakes Honda City Studio. Go there for sales and service at Great Lakes Honda City, and make sure that you let them know that DT sent you. You can get a sneak peek of everything they have to offer by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com is what's popping, giving you the list of topics for the day. First thing we're going to do, as we always do on a Thursday, is the Player of the Week, proudly presented exclusively by Myers Creek. Their two locations on 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia, as well as in the Syracuse Inner Harbor on 720 Van Rensselaer Street, are there for you all throughout the week with fantastic food, great atmospheres, and wonderful customer service. Head out to Myers Creek today, and we'll be bringing you our Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, as well as our Syracuse Football Player of the Week. Syracuse Football is on a bye week, but I have the opportunity of giving you a Player of the Week because we're looking for this entire week, and obviously that started with last weekend's game. So we'll still be bringing you a Player of the Week, giving you some Syracuse football love during the bye week, and then I'll be joined by Randy Edsall for a special that has a lot of great conversation on college football, speaking about the money, the movement, as well as a plan for the future and how Randy Edsall sees the college football playoff and what it could be. So a lot of great stuff coming up with that, and we will be rounding out the show with Papa Joe, who joins us every Thursday, and him and I will be talking about the second college football playoff rankings of the 2025-26 season. We'll also recap our picks for college football week 11. We'll make our picks for week 12. We'll recap NFL week 10, and we'll make our picks for week 11. So without further ado, let's jump into our Myers Creek Player of the Week for Central and Upstate New York High Schools. My Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented exclusively by Myers Creek, this week goes to All of Rome Free Academy's field hockey team. I couldn't pick just one. We had 2 goals, an assisted goal in their Section 3 Class A championship victory over Baldwinsville, 2-1. But I got to give a shout out to All of Rome Free Academy. I can't just pick one student athlete. They had a perfect 18-0 season heading into the state playoffs after winning a Section 3 Class A championship in that 2-1 victory over Baldwinsville. Rome Free Academy 18-0 heading into states, and they lose in that game in states and go to 18-1 overall in 2025. How many teams do you know of how many sports they go undefeated in a season? Rome Free Academy. By the way, I love the logo. You got the knight here, and you have the orange hair going on. I kind of see like a Ghost Rider meets like a medieval knight. That's how I'm kind of seeing these two things come together in this logo. But Rome Free Academy, your entire field hockey team, your coaching staff, all the student athletes, and everybody helps out, as well as the families. Congratulations as I honor Rome Free Academy's entire field hockey team, Section 3 Class A champions, 18-0 heading into states, and 18-1 overall in 2025. God bless to you all. Much love to field hockey, and much respect to RFA for the work that you all did this season to truly have an incredible run all the way to states. This has been our Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented by Myers Creek here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And with that being said, it's time for my Syracuse Football Player of the Week, so let's hop into that. My Syracuse Football Player of the Week, proudly presented exclusively by Myers Creek on 720 Van Rensselaer Street in Syracuse, New York, in the Syracuse Inner Harbor, as well as out on the countryside on 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia. That Syracuse Football Player of the Week, Gary Bryant III, Syracuse Orange linebacker, a transfer in to Syracuse. It's his first season in Orange, and against another team in Orange, he had 1 sack, 6 total tackles, 4 of them solo, aiding Syracuse in a strong first half where they did not allow Miami a score for almost a full 30 minutes. It was 27 plus minutes before Miami scored in this game, and that's thanks to play by the defensive side of the ball. Lucky number 13, my grandfather's favorite number, Gary Bryant III. You are my Syracuse Football Player of the Week for having 1 of the 2 sacks in this game, 6 tackles to lead the team, 4 solo, and aiding Syracuse in a strong first half on the road at Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. The defense doing a lot, and the offense continues to struggle. But listen, that defense is fighting like heck. They've had some really good games, despite the fact that Syracuse has not gotten a victory in a minute. So I want to give credit to Gary Bryant III for his sack, his 6 tackles, 4 solo, and how he and the defense aided Syracuse in a shutout first quarter and almost a shutout second quarter until 2:13 remaining. Syracuse Football Player of the Week, proudly presented exclusively by Myers Creek, goes to Gary Bryant III. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we're going to take a quick step aside. We'll come back with our special with Randy Edsall right after this.
And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world is going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. A delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Caz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. You can go and get a sneak peek at their inventory by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Picture in picture with me right now is the longtime college football head coach and just longtime connection to college football in general. In his retirement, he has kept that mind sharp. We've had fantastic. I love talking with Randy Edsall. I'm not just saying that because he's on the screen. And you see that he's wearing a Syracuse pullover here, and he was an assistant coach on this Syracuse team. And I'm going to say it, whether he wants me to say it or not publicly, I'm going to say it. He's the coach we never had that we should have had. And if we had him, it stands to reason that after Paul Pasqualoni, there wouldn't have been that 20 years of darkness. So with that being said, Mr. Edsall, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. I appreciate that. And just enjoying life.
Yeah, I mean, and what I love about our conversations is we've gotten to have them, obviously, with you being in the second home of my company and second home for me in general, which is the state of Florida. As we've had these conversations, we've gotten to, have different backgrounds for you. And now this is probably my favorite one. Bring me into this room and the room of helmets. I like that you got a little Hall of Fame going on at the Edsall household.
Yeah, I have a helmet from every place that I've coached at over the years. And a friend of mine actually did that, and I had gotten him some helmets and things like that, and he put them up, and he told me where he got the things to you could put them into the wall and put them up. So in terms of the helmets, and then the game balls that I've gotten from bowl games and big wins, I put them up here on the walls here in the basement downstairs of our home. And it's nice when I walk down here. It's just kind of a little bit of a memory of where I was, and because to me the biggest thing for me was when I was coaching, it was giving young men an opportunity and having them come to your institution, and then working with them for 4 or 5 years and just see them grow as a player, as a person, and and that's the thing. And as a student, that was the thing that I really enjoyed doing, just to watch them go from when they were freshmen till when they graduated. And to me, the sad part of it is I think a lot of that is lost now. I don't think that's the intent and what has happened with college football today.
No, you're right. And it's about the development. And I know a friend of yours, friend of mine, Steve Adazio, him and I spoke about that. Can we live in a world where development is happening anymore with, student athletes? And it's hard because, and I can't even, I know I've talked about it. I guess the easy way to address it is to call the transfer portal and NIL free agency, but it's not even free agency because free agency has parameters. So we're looking at the teams right now, Randy, and we're looking at Indiana, who's undefeated at the time of our conversation, and their quarterback, Mendoza, came from Cal. We look at Ohio State with Sayin, but before that, you bring in a Will Howard to win a national championship who came from Kansas State. And there's this constant movement of quarterbacks, right? And I mean, Syracuse had Steve Angeli, who was on Notre Dame's team last year, and he was backing up Riley Leonard, stepped in a game against Penn State in the college football playoff and went 6 of 7 and helped them win that game, which was a 3-point victory. So, I mean, we talk about the quarterback position and how you can have everything else on your team. Great special teams, great kicker, great punter, great running backs, great wide receivers, great offensive line, great defensive line, great secondary, great linebackers. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're probably not winning anything at the end of the season. And one of the things that we see move the most is the quarterback position. And some of these teams that are undefeated and teams that are doing well and teams that are having success this year are having success from taking a quarterback from another team. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the Wild Wild West that is, the wild horses with no fence around them. It's worse than free agency, and just what it's done. Even if we just look at the quarterback position, Randy, knowing that teams that are successful, a lot of those teams have taken a quarterback that was in a different jersey last year.
Yeah, the quarterback is a very important position, and probably the most important position, because if you don't have a quarterback, you're not really going to be very successful, regardless of what you have in the other phases of your team on offense, defense, and special teams. So, right. You have to have that guy. And what's interesting to me is the fact that teams don't develop quarterbacks, because if you're developing a quarterback before the transfer portal took place and everything else, you should have a guy on your roster if you've done the job you're supposed to do from a recruiting standpoint and from a developmental standpoint. The thing that really kind of bothers me a little bit about this whole situation is I really don't think, and I know they're changing it. It used to be 2 opportunities for kids to go into the portal and be able to leave, and now they're cutting it down to 1. Yeah. I still think it should only be 1, but I'm a firm believer that 1 period should come after spring ball, because I think what should happen is kids finish the year, and then you should go through spring ball and you should fight your way to see where you can get yourself on the depth chart, instead of just, moving, at that point in time. Go through it and finish the whole year. So from an academic standpoint, you can do that. And to me, the transfer portal should be in May. Then the kid goes in there, and then he's got June and July where he can go in with his team and work. But I'm sure that's not going to happen. But and then, even some of these schools, they make poor decisions on who they bring in as a quarterback from the transfer portal, and they don't pan out. And then all of a sudden after spring ball, we got to go get another guy. Well, now they go get another guy, and you paid one guy money to come, and then he's not good. And then you got another guy coming who's performing better, who's not probably getting paid as much money. And now you got these dynamics all throughout your team. It's just one big mess, and it's just a situation that the NCAA is, they're not going to clean it up because they're afraid of lawsuits, and they don't win lawsuits. So it's worse than the NFL, and it's very, very difficult to manage from a personnel standpoint, from a monetary standpoint, and also I think from a morale standpoint in terms of your team.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it is. It's very hard. I'm a proponent that there shouldn't be 2 openings of the portal for college football. I think there should be 1. I agree with you. I don't like the timing of them, right? Because you have one that opens before the end of the postseason. So the regular season ends, the portal opens, and you got guys that are going, yeah, okay, like I know my team's in a bowl game or in the college football playoff, but I'm the backup quarterback, so I'm on the team, but I'm not on the team, and I'm not going to play for you in case anything happens because I got to market myself for somebody else. And, I was at the SMU Penn State game last year in the first round of the college football playoff, and both of their backup quarterbacks were in the portal. So they're there, but they're not available. And right. So there's that side of it, right? And then there's the season ends, and you're frustrated, or a coach gets fired, or you're nervous, or you didn't have the season you wanted to have, or you're not in the playoff, and you decide to transfer. Now the bowl games are diluted, the college football playoffs diluted. And then when you talk about right after spring practice, again, I mean, think about that. I leave in the spring. I got your playbook. I got the ins and outs and the inner workings of your team. You can't tell me where I can't go, including in conference. So I go to spring ball with Alabama. I leave. I go to Texas A&M, and I say, here's everything Coach DeBoer is doing. Here's everything that we got going on. Here's all the plays that we run. And so now I'm essentially becoming a mole for somebody else. And so I think I agree with you. There should be 1 opening, and it should be after you get an education. Oh my gosh, you're making them go to class. Oh my gosh, you're making them actually have a year under their belt. And if you have it in May, it's not affecting anything. It's not affecting the bowls. It's not affecting the playoff. It's not affecting somebody going through spring ball, then going to another school and taking that playbook to fall ball. So, I mean, I like your thoughts on that because, Randy, let's be honest, what's happening right now with the transfer portal, having it at the times that you have it, is affecting one season and it's affecting the other season. And again, why are people not talking about the fact that I can go to spring ball at Syracuse, transfer to North Carolina and tell Bill Belichick everything that Fran Brown's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that they have the one thing in January or whatever, but I just don't like the timing of that. From the standpoint of, like you said, guys are opting out of bowl games. I don't know why they have bowl games after the playoffs, because they don't mean anything. And, the whole thing has changed from the standpoint. It used to be a reward to go to a bowl game. Now it's not a reward. It's just a way for ESPN to get programming, because they own most of the bowls to begin with. So I just think from the most ethical and logical way, and for the kids' benefit academically and everything else, they should be able to transfer, but it shouldn't come until after the spring semester. They're signing a 1-year renewable scholarship, so finish out the year and go somewhere after that year's over. Now, if you don't want to start and what'll happen, you'll get some guys that'll start the spring semester, and then they won't go through spring practice, whatever, because they don't want to get hurt. Well, to me, if I'm at another school, when I see a guy doing that, I'm saying to myself, maybe this isn't the right guy, it's just one big mess right now, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody trying to come up with common sense solutions to trying to make the situation as best they can.
Yeah, and you mentioned ESPN and having the bowl games and whatnot. ESPN, for almost a couple weeks now at the time of our conversation, Disney has been fighting, who owns ESPN and ABC. They've been fighting with Google, that owns YouTube TV. So a lot of people that cut the cord and left cable over the last many years, me included, and have gone to a place like YouTube TV, which I have. We got a message from Google that said, not only are we fighting with Disney, and not only are we going to not have access to any of these channels that you're paying for, but we're going to delete your entire library. Now, somebody like me, who's a broadcaster of over 20 years, I have like 200 games, college football games that I saved. They said, we're deleting the entire library and we're not going to have access because Disney and Google are fighting. I said, well, figure out whoever's going to get the extra penny in your deal, and let's make this work. But there are people that are watching and listening to us right now, Randy, that have not been able to watch the majority of college football because of the SEC's deal and the Americans deal and the ACC's deal with ESPN and with ABC. So there's a ton of content that's been gone. And you talk about, ESPN having the rights to these bowls and that it makes them money and whatnot. What is your thought on Disney and Google feuding to the point where now fans are paying $82.99 to have YouTube TV, which used to be $69.99 or maybe even cheaper, and is constantly added. And now I really don't want to hear from Google saying, well, we reached a deal with Disney. It's only going to cost you $5 more a month because we're not going to pay for it. We're going to put it off on our subscribers. What's your take on all this? Because there's people watching and listening to us right now that haven't been able to watch more than half of the college football games because Disney and Google can't seem to figure out a price.
Yeah, well, I'm a YouTube TV subscriber, so
so much.
So yeah, I don't get any of those things, but and there's going to be some people that want to watch it that are just going to go and pay it, and and here's the thing, Dan, college athletics, the problem is it's all come down to money, everything, and it transfers over to TV. It's not only what's happened with players, but now it's transferred to TV, and Google, they might not want to pay that. You get that. I mean, they're a company, they want to make money and everything else, and ESPN has become a big monopoly with everything that they're trying to do and all those things. And you know what? I just won't watch it. It's as simple as that. I don't need that. I've got other things that I can do to take, with my time, that I don't care if I do watch it. There's other networks that I'll watch, Fox Fox Sports 1 and CBS Sports Network and CBS, and I'll watch that, and then guess what? You get your football fix with watching the NFL, because you can get those on mainstream TV. And so I just think what happens is with some of this is that these cable people, are greedy, and they're going to, at some point in time, people are just going to say, I've had enough, and I'm not going to watch, because they can't keep, some people just can't afford to keep paying more money each month with the prices that these entities are going to charge.
Yeah, I mean, when I cut the cord to cable, it was $69.99. Now YouTube TV is $82.99. So it's now costing me more to not have cable because of everything that's gone on with Google and Disney. And, allegedly they say that Disney's lost $5 million a day not being on YouTube TV. And look, they're still alive. They're still afloat. And I'm sure that they'll add those prices to the Disney park tickets, so nobody at Disney has to lose a penny. And that's the sad part of this all is, you and I have talked about a lot of things behind the scenes. And, I appreciate capitalism in the sense that I'm a business owner and I can continue to make money with no ceiling. But I'm also a business owner that's probably one of the only people in this country that hasn't raised my prices on the businesses that I work with. I have not punched them in the face during COVID, figuratively. I have not added all of this to them. So I just, that's the thing, Randy, that I really don't like, is that as gas prices have gone higher and, things, everything costs us more. Right. But that's because these billion-dollar, trillion-dollar, million-dollar companies are saying, well, our bottom line is this, and everything's gone up. So instead of saying, you know what, we're going to make a little less surplus this year, they say, no, just keep passing the buck until it gets to you and me. And ultimately, that's where we are right now, is that a Disney or a Google is going to say, well, hey, at the end of our taxes and everything else, we make $20 million. And this year, with everything rising, we're only going to make 17. So now we got to find a way to charge that extra $3 million to somebody somewhere so that we still make 20. And you just see tickets go higher and higher and higher and higher. And I look at all this money that Disney has with ESPN and all these contracts with ESPN, and then I go to a Disney park and it's $87. Now it's $187. So I can't help but think to myself, Disney bought the NBA and they bought the NFL and they bought this, they bought that. But am I paying now $100 more to go to Magic Kingdom because Disney has Monday Night Football? Just makes you think about those things.
Well, you can't just stop with ESPN and the TV people. Now you got to take a look at the universities as well, because the universities, they don't mind spending money that they really don't have. So, in terms of coaching contracts, in terms of what they charge for tickets, and ticket prices continually go up. So, now all of a sudden they got to take $20 million of their revenues and put it back into the student athlete. So that's 20 million shortfall of what they have to pay the bills. So what are they going to do? They're going to find a way to, put more, make people pay more to come watch games, to pay more for concessions, at those games, all those different things that go on. So you got a problem with not just television. Now you got a problem, like I said, with the institutions and what they're charging. And so now it's a snowball that's going downhill, and it's like, where's it going to stop? And it's just like, one of the things is that there's not a lot of accountability to me in college athletics and nowadays. And when you take a look, like Bo Schembechler never won a national championship, but he was at Michigan for all those years. And now people think that everybody's got to win a national championship when only probably 7-8 teams maybe really have the capability to win a national championship in college football. But yet they're going and spending money because they don't know who they are. They think that there's somebody that they're not. And when you take a look at these athletic directors, presidents, board of trustee members shelling out these contracts that they shell out, to the coaches, and then they fire them and they have to pay these buyouts. I mean, to me, those ADs and those presidents ought to be fired. To me, if anybody gives a head coach any more than 5 years in this day and age, because of the environment that we're in, with the name, image, and likeness, with the portal, they ought to be fired immediately, because no coach needs more than 5 years. And because of what you can do and go out and replenish a roster, people bringing in 40 to 50, some 70 people new from 1 year to the next in terms of their roster. And it's schools that they're wannabes, but they don't know how to be, and they're never going to be a top tier school and have an opportunity to win a national championship. So, it's everyone that's involved that's created this, to me, this unsustainable model that they have going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I talked to my dad about this week. I said, where does it stop? How does it stop? Do you have to stop going to the games? Do you have to stop paying for parking? Do you have to stop buying food? Do you have to stop buying jerseys? I mean, what do you do to tell? Because it seems like whenever a school is losing money, they just charge the community more. When, a network is losing money, they just charge their subscribers more. When a big multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company makes a bad decision and where they put their money, they just charge more somewhere else. I've said it before, if cable has 200,000 subscribers and they lose half, then they just charge the 100,000 that they have double. And then you're going to lose more. So, I mean, at what point does the snowball stop? What do we have to do, Randy? Do people have to stop going to games, stop buying cable, stop going, getting parking, stop buying jerseys? At what point do you look at a school and say, hey, yeah, y'all agreed for the $20 million. The ACC and the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10, they had to, in order to have this settlement with the NCAA, you agreed to find $20 million to pay your student athletes. You agreed to that. The people that come and sit in your stands and buy hot dogs and beer, they didn't agree to that. They can't afford that. So, I mean, what has to happen to turn to a school and say, yeah, it's great that you got that deal, but you as an institution agreed to the $20 million, not the people that live in your city?
Well, that's never going to change until people stop going to games. If people don't go to games and people don't subscribe to the cable networks or the streaming networks, that's when it all changes. Because as long as people are willing to pay and do those sort of things, but these schools that aren't top tier schools are going to struggle because they're not going to win, and then people aren't going to come to the games, and it makes it hard. But and there's only a handful of schools that actually make money off of football. Everybody else is losing money, and it's so where's spending the money that you bring in and put back into your program? Because some of these schools, they can take the $20 million, they can do things with name, image, and likeness, and guess what? It's never going to make a difference, for them to make the college football playoff. It's just not going to happen. And as an institution, you need to know that, and when Texas A&M and Texas Tech, the money that they're spending, Ohio State, what they spent, what Michigan spent the year before, there's only a handful of schools that have the ability to do that. And then the thing that goes with that is, kids are making money off of name, image, and likeness, and they're not even doing anything for that money. They're tweeting maybe a couple things here and there and everything else. Yeah. And so what are you teaching these kids? They're making money by basically not doing something. So now when they get out in the real world, and most of the players aren't going to be going on to the NFL anyhow, what are they going to think? I should get something for nothing now? Because that's basically it's what's happening with quite a few of the student athletes nowadays in terms of what they have to do for name, image, and likeness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're speaking to my ears, and the reality of it all, of like, why do people not want to work at the jobs that they have? Why do they not want to do certain things? because they've been trained that they don't have to. And, I think I said this during COVID. I said, when you told everybody to stay home and you were going to just hand them checks, you told a society that was not responsible to remain irresponsible. And then after all that stopped and you said, now it's time to get responsible, you've already shown them that they don't have to be. So why would they change? Just like I tell people, I don't work for free. Because if I work for free, then I'm always going to work for free. Just like when you give people money to stay at home, then they're always going to want to stay at home and do that. Once you create the environment, you can't just walk to it and go, oh, now I'm going to change it. Because they're going to ask you, well, if it was free for 3 years, why is it not free the fourth? If I could stay home and do nothing and get a $600 check, then why do I have to do something now? And that's the environment we're kind of living in right now. And I've told people this before. I said, why don't you hire me? I built my brand out of thin air with God. We're 22 years into me being a broadcaster, and over half of that time has been within my own business. I said, why don't you hire me at schools and institutions to go and travel and have these conversations, to publicly speak with these student athletes and say, I've built my entire business on me being my brand. Right. So I can talk to you about what that takes, what that means. You can't just smile and go, oh, I work with Columbia, so I'm just going to take a picture like this and get 300 likes. That's all well and good. And let's say that quarterback, let's say that they had 300,000 people view that post. How many of those 300,000 people went and bought anything from Columbia? It's a lot more than taking a picture and smiling. And, I feel like we've completely devalued what it is to advertise and to promote something, because it's all about the likes and the clicks and the retweets and this and that. And I'm like, that's not what it's about. There could be 300,000 people that like a post of somebody taking a picture with, a refillable mug, and then I can have 1,400 people watch a video that I did, but I'm actually getting those people to go to that restaurant, as opposed to your 300,000 people that are never going to buy anything from Columbia. So, I think we've gotten really, really, really focused on quantity, and very rarely, Randy, do we focus now on quality. And that's where I think the problem lies at this moment in time.
No, there's no question about that. And again, the problem another problem that I have is these college kids are making more than what NFL people are making, who have proven themselves and have done it day in and day out. And you have college guys that haven't done it day in and day out, and they're making all this money. And again, I was a proponent of giving the kids like a $20,000 stipend, put it in their scholarship. That's all you'd have to do. But to do the way it's done now, I would never give, I'm a graduate of Syracuse, and I would never give money for name, image, and likeness, because I don't believe in it. I don't believe college players should be getting paid. I think they should get a stipend in their within their scholarship to be able to do those sort of things. And but I would never. And I think that's one of the things that's happening. It's going to be interesting to see, because you get these institutions that are going to go out and ask people for money for name, image, and likeness, and then all of a sudden they go out and get somebody, and that person isn't good enough, and he's gone after a year, and now you're going to go and ask people for money for name, image, and likeness when you made a mistake as an institution and coaching staff on a kid, and you basically threw that money away, and now you want more money? How can I trust you to make the right decisions, with the money, And so you get into those situations where, the NFL is a totally different entity. They got a salary cap, they're everything's pretty much slotted with the draft and all those sort of things. But in college, there's, like I said, there's no rules, there's no parameters, there's nothing to hone in on what everybody can pay. And it's unfortunate that it, and to me, if it doesn't change, then I think there's going to be bigger problems within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, and they keep talking about the 20 million this year, it's going to go up, and then it's going to go up, and it's going to go up. And I said this to my dad. I said, if everything keeps going up, then no one's going to be able to afford it. You're going to have you're gonna you're gonna have like 100 rich people and billions of poor people, and it just doesn't make any logical sense. The money of it all really doesn't make sense. But I do want to take a look beyond that to the talent that we do have and to who is where. And one thing I can't understand, Randy, and I'm going to share it with you, and you and I feel like are on the same wavelength in a lot of ways, but it's something called the eye test. I don't get it. Okay, now I understand the one with cover one eye and you look, but I don't understand the eye test of a college football team. When it's been suggested and perpetuated yearly that Notre Dame always passes the eye test. Now, they're a top 10 team, according to the College Football Playoff Committee. But I do this thing where I research, and I have to be able to argue everything that I do. So when I'm putting my top 25 together, I have to be able to argue why this team is 22 and not 21. I have to argue why this team's in the top 10 and this team is not. Why is this team here and they're not? Why is this team that has one more loss better than this team that doesn't? And when I'm assessing Notre Dame, or any team, I look at college football the way I look at college basketball. I say, okay, college basketball has quad wins. Quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I said, okay, I'm going to do the same thing with college football because it's easy to describe. Quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. If you are Indiana and you beat Illinois, who had no business being in the top 10, who had beaten 3 unranked teams to be number 9, Indiana beats Illinois by 50 plus. What top 10 ranked team, Randy, have you seen in college football in the last decade that's lost by more than 50 points? You probably can't name one.
I really couldn't name one.
But you can name Illinois this year. So
right.
I'm not giving Indiana credit for beating Illinois, who is number 9, because you're at the mercy of what that team truly is, what they become. So I'm going to say Indiana, that win over Illinois, I'm going to call it a quad 3 win. It's not a quad 1 win. So let's go to the argument of Notre Dame, who people say passes the eye test. Now, I get on the teleconference calls and I listen. And the conversation about Notre Dame was they passed the eye test. So I look at Notre Dame and I say, okay, they almost beat Miami, but they didn't. They lost by 3. They almost beat Texas A&M, but they didn't. They lost by 1. They beat USC, who's their only ranked win of the season, and USC lost to Illinois, and USC doesn't have any quad 1 or arguably quad 2 wins. So what does that USC win really mean? Are they a top 20 team? I don't think so. And then they beat Navy, who they beat every year. Whether Navy's undefeated or not, they beat Navy from many, many times over many, many years. So Notre Dame's a top 10 team because they, quote unquote, passed the eye test. And I say to you, Randy, if you're drunk at a bar and the lights are off, everybody in that room passes the eye test. So I would love to get your thoughts on whether or not you truly believe Notre Dame, based on their body of work, is a top 10 team nationally.
Well, I don't think that they are, but I don't know who all the top 10 teams would be, because here's my issue with all that, Dan, is this. Yeah. And I understand it's the system that we have right now.
Yeah.
But I think this is a joke when they start going like tonight. They're going to give the rankings again, the ratings again for who's ranked there and all this and everything else. And you mentioned Miami's not the same team that they were. They got 2 losses now, and they're not playing that well. So that loss, is not a really good loss. The Texas A&M, thing is, but until I don't think you can rank these people the right way in the way the system is set up right now, just because of it's not Indiana's fault. In terms of who they're playing, they're given a schedule by the Big Ten that they have no control over. And all these conferences, teams don't have a control. So you can, like Indiana, they're going out and winning every game. So they're doing what they're supposed to do, regardless of who they beat. Now you start getting into well, they beat this team by this much, they beat that team by this much. Well, it's hard to evaluate to me until you get a system where you end up, and because you're never going to get the SEC and the Big Ten to do anything to separate and whatever because of the egos of the commissioners involved with those two conferences. But to me, until you get like a 420 team conferences that have 4 or 5 team divisions, and each one of those division teams play each other home and away, then they play, that's 8 games, then they play, somebody else from their games from, the people within their conference, and then you end up having 4 winners. Those 2 play, you come up with a champion, and you do the same thing with the 3 other things. Now you act just like the NFL model. The NFL's not ranking anything like this because it's all done on the field.
Yeah.
How you can evaluate people based on 12 people in a room making decisions. Some of them, to me, don't know if it's blown up or stuffed. And you're looking at computer data and all this stuff. It's still what happens on the field. So that's the issue that I have with the college football rankings. And Notre Dame gets a pass because they're not in a conference. They don't play in a conference, and they know it. And that's why Notre Dame is smart, because they know that they've got it the best of anybody going. So they're never going to try to go to a conference. And then until somebody forces them, they're going to do what they do because they got the best chance of getting to the college football playoff than anybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and like you say, you play the games that are and I agree with you about Notre Dame. Why would you join, right? Because you don't. You look at these teams and, well, you can't let that team in because they didn't play in their championship. And then, there's arguments of like it's good to not play in your championship because if you have 1 loss and you don't make it to your conference championship and you're in the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, or the Big 12, then whatever team plays in it, if they have 2 losses and then you only have 1 loss, they're going to let in the winner of that and then let you in even though you didn't play in it. And so there's like all these weird rules. And then there's rankings of Oklahoma above Texas. They have the same overall record, and Texas beat Oklahoma. So there's certain common sense things that don't make sense. But, I've done my research. And sometimes people respect that, and sometimes people go nuts off of it. But see, if I'm going to put out a top 25, Randy, I'm going to do my homework. And when I look at Ohio State, I say, okay, Ohio State has 1 quad 1 win, Texas. And Texas has fluctuated.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. That's not Ohio State's fault because Ohio State. That's Ohio. The Big Ten gives them the schedule now, and then you schedule certain teams. And the non-conference schedules are made up 4, 5, 6 years ahead of time. So you don't know how good you think somebody could be good, and then you play them down the road, and they're not good. So that's why I'm saying it's such a flawed system, in my opinion. Now, again, I know you have to have a system to evaluate with to determine who the people are that get to the playoff. But to me, I would think that there should be people working to try to do something that's more equitable, and you don't have to worry about what you're talking about, quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins. NFL's not looking at quad 1 wins or anything like that. And again, if you broke that down within the conferences like that, then everybody has a legitimate chance to get to the college football, the Final Four. Because if you win your division within your conference, guess what? You're going to the semifinals. Then if you win that game, you're going to the finals of your conference. And then you win your conference championship, you're into the Final Four. And guess what? You've earned it on the field. You didn't earn it on the eye test.
So then to you, if the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 you were talking about having 20 teams. So you're regionalizing and you're putting conferences there. But for argument's sake, let's say it's those 4 conferences. If it's those 4 conferences that split into divisions, and then each of those divisions, the champions of that play until you get a champion, then essentially your college football playoff would be the winner of the Big 10, the winner of the Big 12, the winner of the SEC, and the winner of the ACC, and then they would all compete on an equal playing field. Then none of the conferences are like who's better than who, but then I guess you rank the 4 when you get to it, but what you're essentially saying is do it like the NFL does it. Here's our
you don't even have to rank them when they get to it. You just have it like, okay, this year SEC and the ACC play each other in the semifinals, and the Big 10 and Big 12, and then you switch it, say another year. You can do it.
Yeah,
you can do it that way. But until to me, you don't have a true national champion when you're doing it the way that they do it now. I mean, like I said, it's the best of what they got, and yeah, it is a national championship and all that. But to me, I'm a firm believer. It should be decided on the field. It shouldn't be decided in a boardroom, with 12 people making those decisions when, it should be done. And again, college football has gotten professional. It's professionalized. It's no different than the NFL for the most part. So let them do that and play it out that way. Now maybe they don't make as much money, and again, it gets back to money again. And so that's the only thing that I would like to see, because I just don't trust the people in that room, to make those decisions, and like I said, when you start comparing the seeding, because the seeding can be a big thing, that can be a big thing in terms of how those 12 teams are seeded. And, it could hurt somebody based on the decisions made in those rooms. But when you play it like that, in terms of playing in divisions, just like the NFL, now it's done on the field. Now, to me, you eliminate all those things. And then, what you do, it's the NFL. They don't worry about, they take NFC and AFC, and they kind of got that model a little bit, and you just make it different, like I said, Big 10 and all that, and then they split it up. And, like I said, the ACC, keep your West Coast teams, Cal, Stanford, SMU, and throw one other team in there. And like the Big 10, you got it already. Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. So those teams, and again, you talk about student athletes and the travel, then they don't have to travel as far, and different things. So I don't know. I guess that just makes too much sense for some people.
Well, what you're doing is you're asking each conference to regionalize itself, fight within those regions, have out-of-region games like the NFL does. So essentially, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 would all be versions of the NFL in and of themselves, but then their champions would play each other. So it would be like the NFL model times 4, and then we see who wins through all of that, and we go from there. But like you said, I mean, now you're talking about getting back to regions, getting back to things that make sense. It's saying, okay, if you win, and now you're treating every conference the same.
Exactly.
Now you're essentially treating every conference the same. So, which I like, because here's the next conversation that comes off of that. Let's go to the American, because you coached in the American. And being a part of the American when UConn was there before they made the horrendous decision of flying off in space by themselves for football, when you were there and you were within the American Conference, there were teams that went undefeated. There was a team in UCF that still to this day, I don't know any school, any professional league, anywhere. I don't know any team in America, any sport at any time, at any level, that went undefeated, lost their entire coaching staff, and then went undefeated again until they played a bowl game. And so we had a UCF that went 25-0 that never played for a national championship. And within that time period, UCF beat Auburn, who that year had beaten Alabama and Georgia, who played for the national championship. So how does UCF not get to play for a national championship when they beat the team that beat the two teams that played for it? And why is Auburn not in the college football playoff when they beat the two teams that played for a national championship? So none of that made any sense. But this is the argument I'm getting to. When I said Indiana's not the number one team in the country at the time that I was saying it, like 3 weeks ago, I said they're not number one, they're not number two. A bunch of Indiana fans lost their mind on me. They didn't ask me where I put Indiana. I put them at 3 or 4. So we're fighting over, they're not 1 and 2, but I got them in the top 4. So what are we fighting over? In the essence of all this, they're still going to make it. But they said to me, hey, Dan, we beat every team we played. to your point, Randy, we're undefeated. We can't help the teams that we play in the record that they have or the quad that they're in. We beat them. But I said to them, if you're going to say that, then why is Memphis not in the top 10 at the time? If you're going to say that, then why is BYU where they were? Why is James Madison where they are? Why is Coastal Carolina a few years ago not cracking the top 10? Why is UCF not cracking the top 10? So to your point, Randy, of conferences forming divisions and then treating everybody the same, if Indiana should be in the top 2 because they can't help who they play and they're undefeated, then why are we not saying that about South Florida early on the season? Why are we not saying that about Memphis?
Well, because they're not in the upper echelon. They're not one of the big boys. And that's the problem. And that's why, to me, the 4 major conferences, the Power 4, should just go their own separate way. Group of 5 should have their own separate championship, and just do it that way. Because basically what has happened is the Power 4 is up here. Then you have, the group of 5, 1 AA, 2, and 3. So basically, the group of 5, 1 AA, FCS, Division 2 and Division 3, they've been Division 2 a little bit, and most especially 1 AA. They become a feeder. They become the minor leagues for the Power 4 conferences. And so the group of 5 is never going to get the respect that, that they, because they don't play people. And again, when you take a look, okay, you play an SEC schedule, it's a lot different than playing the American schedule, and so that's why I think just stop playing the game and think you're being fair when you're really not being fair, and just Power 4, go off and have your own deal, and then Group of 5, have your own deal. FCS already has it, Division 2 and Division 3, so it's already there. In terms of the setup and everything else. And the one thing is, things change in life. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like the NCAA wants to change or wants to do anything to make it ideal or make it better than what it is right now. And that's the only, until you separate the group of 5, the Power 4s and everything else, and then you don't do something with divisions, in my opinion, you're always going to have this scrutiny and unfairness because of who teams are playing. And the other thing is, they shouldn't be playing 1 AA teams either. I would knock if the schools are playing 1 AAs, I would knock them down for playing 1 AAs and not playing somebody that's a group of 5 or another, Power 4 from someplace. And that's what I'm saying. Power 4s, you should just play Power 4 teams. Group of 5, you should just play group of 5 teams. And, and again, because 1 AA, that to me, that should take your ranking down when you play a team like that.
Which is exactly what Indiana did when they played Indiana State, and what Penn State did when they played Villanova this year.
And then, the other thing is, take a look at some of these teams, and Penn State's a perfect example. Penn State doesn't play anybody out of conference usually.
Correct.
They play to get 3 wins, or 4 wins. They might have one semi-tough game, but and that's the other thing. These teams, load up. They think because if they can do well in their conference and maybe have 1 loss, they can get there by having 4 other wins that they out of conference, and so that's what I'm saying. Get it into that way, the way it should be, and then everybody's playing the same type of teams. And, again, then it's up to all the teams within that conference and within those divisions, get your team up to snuff to go and compete and try to win your division. Then I think you got a chance, because now, if I know this, if I'm a school, say like Syracuse, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, Dan, and I'm an alma mater, Syracuse is going to have a tough time ever winning the ACC. 100%. It's going to be tough. Yeah. Okay? But the one thing that can happen is if you go to 4 or 5 team divisions, I know this, if I'm the head coach, I can really get my team fired up, say, hey, this is a division game. We need to win the division games. And we win that division, guess what? We're basically in the playoff, because we're playing in the semifinals, and then if we win that, we get to the finals. So if you win your division, you've kind of made the the playoffs, because now you're into the playoff to get into the Final Four. And Syracuse would have a much better chance, just like a lot of schools would, under that format than the current format that's out there.
Yeah, you know, and I'm thinking about it right now, going off of your format. The ACC has 17 football member schools because Notre Dame's a member in everything but football. So if you have 17 and you break into 4 conferences, then you have, or 4 divisions within the ACC, then you're taking that and you're saying you have 4 divisions. It pretty much is equal. It would be 4 divisions of 4, but you're going to have 1 extra. So there'll be 1 division of 5, and then the other 3 will have 4. Syracuse's division would be Syracuse, Pitt, and BC, probably Louisville, if they wanted to put the old Big East schools together. So then that's your 4. And if Syracuse wins that division, and there's 4 divisions in the ACC, that's doable that Syracuse can win that division. So if Syracuse wins that division, and then you play the division of Virginia and Virginia Tech, and let's say Georgia Tech and somebody else, okay, so now Syracuse plays Virginia, and then there's the division of the southern, like Florida, and maybe you put somebody else in there, and then you have the West Coast with Cal and Stanford and SMU, and you pick somebody else to be a part of that. Now all of a sudden, let's say Syracuse is in a Final Four in the ACC, and the Final Four is SMU, Syracuse. So Syracuse is in the East, SMU is in the West, and then you have Virginia, and then let's say you have Miami. So now that's doable, okay? You got SMU, Virginia, and Miami, and now Syracuse has a fighting shot to do something. That could pay off dividends, and it's exciting to see that. But you brought up a great point, because Penn State does not play a difficult schedule out of conference. It's a snooze schedule. And then you look at the schedule for Indiana as a snooze schedule. To be completely honest, the Big Ten, outside of Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and now at the moment Indiana, there's not a difficult schedule there. Purdue is atrocious. Michigan State's atrocious. You look, Penn State's been terrible this year. At the time we're talking, those teams they're not winning. You know, you got teams, like I said, Indiana's Final 4 games at the time going into those Final 4, the combined record of their opponents was 1-17. Looking at Maryland and Purdue and Penn State and Wisconsin, just awful teams. So then if they schedule an out-of-conference that doesn't challenge them, yeah, okay, Indiana goes 12-0, but because they played at Oregon and at Iowa, their other 10 games were nothing. But now they're undefeated, and because the Big Ten has prowess over the American, you look at that and you go, well, that's a great team. How is that a great team? If Memphis goes undefeated in the American and then they play out-of-conference Oklahoma State, UCLA, and Arkansas, and they win all those games, well, they say, well, those teams aren't that good. But how is that not a better out-of-conference schedule? And, we don't value. And it all comes down to what conference do they value, but who is Penn State actually playing? Who is Indiana actually playing? Who is Notre Dame most of the time actually playing? And so,
and that's why I'm saying is if you go to divisions, you're playing each one of them home and away. So that helps develop rivalries. It helps for fans that know they're going, and you do it like a regional thing in terms of like the NFL, and now, I don't know, it makes too much sense, I guess, but to me, it's just something that's very simple, would be very simple to do. But again, the egos of the commissioners, and like I said, some conferences have 18 teams or whatever, and that's what I'm saying. If every conference got up to where they would have 20, and that's where you force Notre Dame, hey, you got to get into the ACC, and then you take one other team or whatever. So you can do that, but then you have something that's equitable. And like I said, I just don't think the way it's done right now, it's the best of what you can probably do, but I don't think it really gives you a true champion, in my opinion.
No. And, if you just simply look at the American this year, South Florida challenged themselves. At the time that they were, now granted those teams are not the same right now, but at the time that they were playing, they played their out-of-conference schedule. 3 out of the 4 teams that they played were ranked in the top 25. They played Boise State, who was 25. They played Miami, who was in the upper echelon of the top 10. And then they played Florida, who was like 15 at the time. But, I mean, this is...
But here's the thing that I'll tell you about that, though, too, Dan, in my opinion. is the preseason rankings, and the early season rankings don't mean a hill of beans, in my opinion. Because you know what, with the portal and people coming in and changing and all that stuff, you know, I don't know why they rank teams. They shouldn't start ranking teams until you get to, you know, maybe November, you know, and then you got, because who knows? I mean, nobody knows how good anybody is with what's going on nowadays and everything else. And that's why I said, just let it play out, you know, and, you know, it's just like, you know, the college football rankings starting last week. It's almost, you know, you shouldn't even worry about rankings until November, because let it all play out and see who's good and see who's not good, and, you know, what the records are and all those sort of things. And it hurts, because you can say, okay, so-and-so beat this team, you know, early in the year, and they were ranked in the top 10. Well, you come to find out now all of a sudden they're not even in the top 20. So they really weren't that good a team. Yeah. So that win really doesn't mean as much now as the season progressed as people might have thought it would, when they didn't know what that team really had. Yeah. And interesting in a situation is Penn State, you know, wins over Penn State don't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, when people said, you know, hey, you know, come on, Dan, I mean, you know, Indiana beat Penn State. And I said, you beat a team with an interim head coach who lost their starting quarterback by 3 points because someone got their toe down. I don't consider that good. I consider that Indiana almost gets punished for that, in the sense of, like, you won, so you didn't get punished as much, but you winning that game, you're playing Penn State. Ohio State took care of Penn State, no problem. So Ohio State's better than you. And
well, it's just like Clemson. What the wins over Clemson by people early in the season, what good were they? You know?
Right, and that's
it's going to be on somebody's resume that they beat Clemson when Clemson was number 4 or 5 or whatever they were in the country, but right. They're not that team.
Which is why I think that when we're trying to decide who makes this college football playoff, outside of the 5 highest ranked conference champions, the at-large teams that are currently at 7, and whether they're at 7 or more in the future, those at-large should be looked at by who they beat that game. Like, you look at who they beat and who they lost to, and you look at where they are at the end of the year. You can't just say you beat a top 4 team or a top 9 team. If it's Clemson or Illinois, then no. If I'm deciding between, do I let this team in or that team in, I'm looking at who did those teams end up being that you beat. So you got how many quad 1 wins now and how many quad 1 wins. I don't care about what you had back then. That doesn't matter to me. Like, Indiana fans say, well, we beat Illinois, you got to give us credit. I said, then you can't fault to Alabama for losing to Florida State, because Florida State ended up being in the top 10. So if you're going to give yourself credit for a win that's not against not a good team, you can't fault Alabama for having a loss against not a good team, because when you put Alabama and Indiana head-to-head, Indiana's undefeated, but Alabama's beaten 5 teams ranked in the top 25, and they beat 4 of them in a row.
Well, you can almost be sure right now, and I don't need a committee to tell me this, but ACC's probably going to get 1 team.
Yeah.
You know, the Big 12 might get 2, depending what happens with, you know, BYU and Texas Tech get into the championship game, and then BYU beats Texas Tech in that, and Texas Tech, that's the only loss going. So they might get 2, and Notre Dame's going to get in because they're not going to lose, you know, the rest of the year. And then between the Big 10 and them, they're gonna have, you know, 8 to 9 teams that are going to be in it. Yeah. You know, 4 and 5 or whatever, you know, and I mean, so you already know how it's all going to play out. It's just a matter of, you know, the next couple of weeks. But I mean, that's what it's going to be, and it's kind of set up that way for the Big 10 and the SEC to, you know, to be that. And that's why I said, from an equity standpoint, you know, divide it up. Those, I mean, you got all these 4 that are the Power 4 conferences. Let everybody play it off, and everybody has a fair shot, and then make it to the Final 4, and then you got the, you know, and you wouldn't have to stretch the season out.
Yeah, and they won't do it because the SEC and the Big 10 are not going to give up all them extra spots. So with that being said, and I think the SEC, honestly, arguably this year should have 5 or 6 of those 12. So for Randy Edsall and myself, Dan Tortora, this has been a college football conversation about the money of it all, equity, and finding a way that makes sense. Randy, as always, I appreciate the conversations. I love talking with you, and I love that I love our friendship, and I love that you are always real with me, and that on and off the air we have these multi-layered conversations. You help to make me smarter. You help me to gain knowledge and wisdom, and I genuinely, I honestly, and I talk about you all the time, so your ears should be ringing. The fact that I get to speak with someone of your caliber about all of these things makes me feel like, you know, God's looking kindly down on my life. So just know that I greatly appreciate the fact that you and I have the relationship that we have on and off the air, and that I can always count on you to have a great discussion.
Well, I appreciate it. And, I appreciate what you do and what you do for, college athletics and even high school athletics and everything that you do up in the Syracuse area, because it's, it's a sports town and people like their sports and they like SU and everything else. So I commend you for the longevity that you have and the continued longevity that you'll have doing what you have a passion for. So congratulations, my friend.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I've worked my butt off with a lot of help from God to be local, regional, national, and international, and to be standing there at the College Football Playoff National Championship, and there's 200-300 media people in the entire world that get to stand there. You know, it makes you feel like everything that you're putting in, that someone's picking up what you're putting down. So, I love it. I appreciate it. I love that, we have the relationship, like I said, that we have. And when I go to a game and I'm standing on the sideline with Randy Edsall, I feel like something in my life is working in the right direction. So thank you for that.
All right, buddy. Stay, don't let that snow cause any accidents for you up there.
Yeah, I'll be safe, and you be safe as well.
All right, buddy.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Appreciate you.
and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week.
He's got
Here
commercials.
At Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
The volume is up.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare it to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant is different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Edsall Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's K9, ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I know y'all been waiting for this moment. It's P to the Jizzle, J. Edgar Twizzle. Papa Joe's here with us. He is on the broadcast. He's going to be picture-in-picture momentarily. Let's bring him up here and let's put him right next to us here where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe as Papa Joe is here in the flesh. He is wearing his Milwaukee Brewers shirt right now, shouting out to MT. He must have gotten in trouble in the house because he's got to rock the MT Milwaukee stuff now. So Papa Joe is here with us here this morning. We're going to talk about the second college football playoff ranking release of the 2025-26 season. Obviously, I did my show on the release. So as the picks were coming out from the committee, as the selections were coming out from the committee, 25-1, we did a show instantaneously releasing the rankings and reacting to them in the moment. So you can go back and watch that on our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel, both /WakeUpCallDT or @WakeUpCallDT. PJ and I will recap Week 11 in college football. We'll make our Week 12 picks. We'll recap NFL Week 10 and make our Week 11 picks. So it is now time for me to give Papa Joe an all-new intro. You know him as the Goso. You know him as PJ. You know him as Papa Joe. But what you don't know him as is Papa Joe, the man, the myth, the legend who came to America by finding his way through the seas as a air raider. What's up, PJ?
That's good. Oh, I'm having fun. MT says hello. She's flying around her because she's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm by myself for a while, and I got to pick up my Corvette, but that's going to have to be a little bit later. So both my cars are going to go in the beauty parlor. They're going to have a ceramic coating on both the cars.
Oh, nice.
So the Corvette's done, and I'm going to drive to Malibu, down to there, drive the Corvette home and leave the Malibu there and have her done. So I'm happy. It's cost a lot of money, but it's worth it. I can't do those kind of things anymore. So
yeah,
I gotta understand that Papa Time is getting Papa Joe.
Yeah. Well, and you got to think about it like this, PJ. Like you said, it's expensive, but it's worth it. Just like reopening the government. So, expensive, but it was worth it. So hopefully the airlines can get back on track, because my butt's coming down to Florida in less than a month, and hopefully I'm going to get to see you in MT. So very excited about that. Let's get into the college football playoff rankings. Now, the college football playoff obviously makes their decisions each week here when we get into early November, and they'll bring it through December when they're making their choices on who they believe are the best teams in America, with 136 FBS schools, Division 1A football schools. So 136 is what we're currently at right now. And taking a look at the college football climate, I want to bring up a graphic here, PJ, so that you and I can have a conversation about it. So we're going to bring this up instantaneously in the moment for the college football playoff and how they view their top 25 teams in.
Let me ask you this before you
go ahead.
keep expounding. Why the hell do they keep doing this when it changes every week?
Well, because they want to, what they essentially are doing is just like the AP or the coaches poll. I think they maybe want to let you know kind of where their mindset is at, what they're thinking, where they're at. And so they're allowing us to get a feel for where they're currently thinking, where that position is for them and how they kind of see things shaking out as of this point. Now, what I like about the college football playoff is that they don't release their rankings until November, because I think releasing rankings in August, September, October, the preseason stuff is kind of ridiculous. So let's bring up what it looks like. I'm going to bring up two side-by-sides here, and I'm going to bring them in the moment here. So there's two different things to look at. There's the college football top 25, which we have right here on the screen. And then we have what would be, if it happened today, the college football playoff, the actual bracket of the playoff based on the 5 highest seeded conference or the 5 highest ranked conference champions, which gets automatic bids, and then the 7 at-large schools, essentially. So this is what it looks like on the screen. Now the top 5, Papa Joe, from college football Week 11 and Week 12 did not change. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, all the same. There were teams that either moved up 1 or 2 or dropped 4. The ACC continued to fall. Somehow Miami is the highest ranked ACC school. I think that's once again because the committee likes Miami. They liked them last year. And, there seems to be some personal bias in what conferences they like, what schools they like. Notre Dame is number 9 in the country. Don't ask me why. And because there's not any logical reason, I'm happy to explain it. But Texas went to number 10, which is where I had them last week. I'm happy to see them there. We saw BYU fall and Texas Tech rise because Texas Tech beat them head-to-head. Michigan has not beaten one ranked team this season. They have no what I would call a quad 1 win. They don't have many, if any, quad 2 wins, and their only ranked team that they played, they lost to by double digits in Oklahoma. So having Michigan in your top 20 really doesn't make any sense, especially above a Virginia and a Louisville. Louisville has a victory over Miami, so that doesn't make sense how they're below a Michigan. I like that Iowa only dropped one spot when they lost to Oregon. It was a good game, 18-16 at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa. Pittsburgh is rising up here, which I think they should. And for the first time this season, they decided to rank a team not in the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, or SEC with ranking South Florida. Last week, PJ, they said Memphis was the best team of the non-power conferences, but now they've actually ranked South Florida. So I'd love to get your thoughts, because if it happened today, the college football playoff would be 1 seed Ohio State, 2 seed Indiana, 3 Texas A&M, 4 Alabama, and Ohio State would play the winner of Oregon and Notre Dame, which would be played in Oregon. And then Indiana would play the winner of 7-10 Ole Miss and Texas, which would be played in Mississippi, because the first round games get home field advantage. Texas A&M, the 3 seed, would play the winner of Texas Tech and Miami, 6-11, which would be played in Texas. And Alabama would get the winner of Georgia and South Florida, and that game would be played in Georgia, and that could give us a quarterfinal matchup of Alabama-Georgia, which I think is way too early for that. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, I've looked at this for the last couple of days. I knew that this is where you were going to go. And I just had the need to ask that question, because this is always a fluid situation when it comes to college football, especially with the rankings. You're right. There's some people out there that are just biased about any conference and any team. So they got to throw them in there, like Notre Dame. So, Notre Dame has always been special, I guess, to people, and they're the only independent, I guess, that's worth anything. So I like South Florida in this deal. I don't like them in the first round. Obviously, I think they probably could have got a better seed than that. And South Florida, we know, beat an inferior Florida team, although that doesn't reflect on anything on South Florida, because they've done a heck of a job this year. The Georgia is Georgia, Alabama's Alabama. The new ones we got coming in here, Indiana, you've stated several times in several weeks that they don't play anyone, and they're not going to play anyone until they wind up the season unbeaten, and they're going to stay at number 2, because no one's going to beat Ohio State. Miami, deservedly so, I think, belongs in there. Texas Tech looks serious. Texas is a little surprised, but I'm glad they're back up there, because they have a generational quarterback. And they got Ole Miss. Ole Miss is Ole Miss with the lane train. So I think I don't think that I'm not going to watch all these games. I think what I will watch will be the Miami-Texas Tech game and the Texas-Ole Miss game. I don't much care about the South Florida-Georgia game or Notre Dame or Oregon. If they're going to be in Oregon, maybe Oregon's got a little bit of a advantage there. And when you get into the quarterfinals, you're right. Georgia, Alabama has no business being in the second quarterfinals. Absolutely none. For some reason, they screwed that up. Maybe they'll rectify that going forward. Don't know. The possible Oregon, Ohio State game will be a barn burner. That'll be a good one to watch. Say Texas Tech and Texas A&M, an all-Texas deal would be fun to watch. And Ole Miss taking on Indiana, or Texas taking on Indiana. That's a flipping game right there, Texas Ole Miss. And, you can only go that far. And who knows what's going to happen in the next, 2 weeks probably, because we're going to do this every week. And is there anything scheduled this week that could change these seedings here?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, when you look at simply talking about, Pittsburgh's playing Notre Dame. right now, this weekend, and that game is where College Game Day is going. And Pittsburgh has had some good contests in recent history against Notre Dame. They're two ranked teams here. I guess if Notre Dame gets this, they get another ranked win, which maybe puts, that puts somewhat of a feather in their cap since they really don't have any. And outside of USC, and USC beat Michigan, and Michigan hasn't beaten anybody. So how does that make USC good? And USC's has a that's their only quality win is over Michigan, and they lost to Illinois. So it doesn't really make any sense. But when we look at the college football slate for this week and the games that are going on that would have some impact, I would say, Indiana's playing Wisconsin, which is blah. Again, Indiana, their competition in their last 4 games of the season, some of the worst teams in their conference, including multiple winless teams. So, Notre Dame at Pittsburgh, that's got some value. And then South Florida on the road at Navy could affect what happens with that, the bid that's going to come from the highest ranked conference champion outside of the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and SEC. Because let's be real, when they say it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions, they're saying the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and SEC in no specific order, and then whoever out of the other conferences is the 5th one. But, so, Wisconsin playing Indiana is a blah. Louisville against Clemson, that could be a trip 'em game. South Florida at Navy could be a trip 'em game. But for the top 10, Notre Dame at Pittsburgh is a notable matchup. And then Oklahoma at Alabama. Oklahoma at Alabama is going to knock, essentially, Alabama's not going to get knocked out of this thing because they have 1 loss, and they've won 8 in a row, including 5 ranked teams in the SEC, which I agreed with pretty much all of them except for Missouri, which I don't think should have been ranked. But Oklahoma, if they lose another game, they will have 3 losses. I think that this will kick Oklahoma out. If Notre Dame wins and Oklahoma loses, it's going to be better for Notre Dame. But if Alabama wins, now, I guess the big question comes to, and that being a huge game, Oklahoma at Alabama, with implications here. Ole Miss has Florida. Florida's played some teams tough, so that could be an interesting game as well. But, PJ, when it really comes down to it, push to shove, speaking on the college football playoff, I understand that Ohio State has not lost a game. But outside of beating Texas, they have no quad 1 wins, no top-tier wins. Indiana's number 2, and they're undefeated. And they have a win at Oregon and a win at Iowa, which is a quad 1 and a quad 2, I would say, win. And then you look, but they barely beat Penn State, who fired their head coach, has an interim head coach, and doesn't have their starting quarterback. That's not a good win. Oh, they won at Penn State. Penn State's 0-6 in the Big Ten. Penn State's only wins are in their garbage non-conference schedule, which included an FCS opponent. None of those opponents are ranked. So Penn State's only wins this season are against teams they should have beaten, and they have not won a single game in the Big Ten. So stop calling that Indiana win at Penn State a quality win. It's not. If anything, it exposes Indiana that they barely beat a bad team. When you barely beat a bad team, that ain't good. Texas A&M's undefeated, PJ, but they haven't played a great schedule. And then Alabama's behind that. But here's my thing about Alabama. Alabama has 5 wins against teams ranked in the top 25. All of those teams are in the SEC. Alabama lost to Florida State in the first game of the season. But when I was on the College Football Playoff Selection Committee call after they made their picks, they talk about Notre Dame, and Notre Dame, yeah, they lost 2 games, but they've won 7 straight. They're on a streak. Well, Alabama lost 1 game, and they're on an 8-game streak, and they're playing in a conference, which Notre Dame is not. They're playing in the toughest conference in America. So, what I'm really saying to you is, I understand Ohio State's undefeated. I understand Indiana's undefeated. I understand that Texas A&M is undefeated. But is Alabama not the best team in the country?
Yes, I think they are. I'm looking at this. So we're looking at possible 3 Big Ten teams and 5 SEC teams. Yep. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't think that'll change if Oklahoma beats Alabama. Alabama's certainly not going to drop out of anything. They'll certainly be lower, but not a 4. So who else would move in there? Georgia will probably, if they beat South Florida. If Alabama loses, Georgia, I think, moves into the number 4. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, I would think, the reality of it all is the top 3 teams right now, I appreciate the fact that they're undefeated, but it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Because Indiana against Alabama, I'm picking Alabama. Indiana against Georgia, I'm picking Georgia. Indiana against an Ole Miss that can score and score and score, I'm probably picking Ole Miss. Indiana with another shot against Oregon, they beat them by 10, but can they beat them twice? I mean, there's Texas A&M is another one of those teams. Like, if Texas A&M played Vanderbilt today, I might lean on Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's a really dangerous team. So I think when all things shake out, PJ, we're going to see the cream rise to the top as we always do, and I think we're going to see the SEC rise with these games. But I will tell the committee very clearly and very truly, do not let that quarterfinal game happen of Alabama-Georgia, where 2 of the best teams in the nation are going to knock each other out, which is going to make it easy for the rest of the field.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that all season, that the SEC, just every week someone gets knocked out. They're so deep. Texas A&M is very curious to me. I watched them play, I think, last weekend or the week before. They have a sophomore quarterback that's just playing free and easy. He can do a lot of things. He throws, he runs, he does a lot of things. And I think they're extremely dangerous if this kid continues to play loose. He's a sophomore, I think. So I think that Mr. DeBoer, I think, is going to earn his money here this year. He's up against it against Oklahoma. And then after that, who knows? Now, you mentioned Florida and Ole Miss. That is an awful, awful, terrible game. I don't know how I have no other way to say it. My all-world quarterback, who was the college football player of the year 2 years ago, as a senior in high school, got pulled in a game. They bring in another kid who was another high flyer, 4-star. They had to bench DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Now, what does Lane Kiffin talk about this week? I just read this morning. He talks about DJ Lagway. He says, how's he doing? He's got good quality wins. Maybe he's had a little problems. He's doing better. He's doing, Lane Kiffin is late. He's pumping his team up. They face a real good quarterback who has anywhere, not reached his potential, not anywhere close. I don't know what the problem is with him. I hope that we get a real serious offensive coordinator or offensive-minded coach, because you can't let these kids go. There's too many true freshmen, that are playing both offense and defense. And if these kids go into the portal or go redshirt, not only is this season lost, but multiple seasons in the future are lost. I don't know what the answer is. I know that the coaching carousel is really heating up. There's a lot of names out there that I'm not familiar with that are looking to break into this, a cauldron of coaching. I don't know why you'd want to go to the SEC anyway. What's the advantage? I mean, you're going to get paid well, sure, but you're going to have to win at least one season out of 3 before they throw you out, and maybe you're set for life with the money they're going to pay you. I don't know about that. I know Lane Kiffin only makes $9 million a year, and he's got a lot of intangibles there that he can make a lot more than that. So the talk down here is that they're going full bore with him. They're going to make him a very handsome package. Probably will, if he takes the job, probably will be the highest paid coach in the nation. That's indisputable. That's indisputable. This kid, I'm not kid. He's a man now. He's 50 years old now. Yeah. But if he's very, I just love to watch him. Love to listen to him. what does he do? He's got a guy on his team who's proposing to his girlfriend on the field.
Yeah.
And he does that, and they're happy and crying. Lane photobombs the pitcher.
That's Lane.
That's Lane. That's Lane. I mean, you can't take him serious, but you can take him serious when he's running the football team. That's for sure. Lane is the key. Lane is the key. Now, if he decides to stay at Ole Miss for another couple more million, I don't know. Florida's situation is awful, Daniel. I'm very upset about it. Last week, getting beat by a Kentucky team that at best is mediocre. I know we're playing Ole Miss. 9 players are not playing, and there's a lot of good players that are not playing. So where am I? I'm back to square one where it all started 4 years ago with Billy Napier. I was looking for some silver lining, and I haven't seen it yet. I have to take some of MT's silver and cash it in, and hope I can get a better coach.
The silver lining that you're going to find with Billy Napier, the only silver lining you're going to find is if you put it on your car. So that's your silver lining that you'll have, PJ. So taking a look at this, there's another matchup that's going to affect everything here, and that is a matchup that is going to be between the number 10 Texas team on the road in Athens, Georgia. So this is going to affect things as well. If Texas were to win that game, I'm going to see Texas all the way up here to the top 5. Now, if Georgia beats Texas, then Texas will have 3 losses. They will be done. Now, looking at the Alabama game like we spoke about before as well, when we go back and we talk about Alabama, Oklahoma, same scenario here, right? Alabama versus Oklahoma. If Oklahoma wins this game, I don't think they go up as high as Texas from 10-5, but I think that Alabama or Oklahoma will creep somewhere within the top 10 here for sure, because they're only at number 11 right now. They might take Texas's spot. They should absolutely take the spot over Notre Dame and over Oregon and arguably Ole Miss. So when you look at Oklahoma here, if Alabama is to lose this, then Alabama's going to stay within the top 10, in my opinion. They'll be somewhere in here. But if I clean this up here for a second and take a look at it, if Alabama were to lose, I don't see them falling anywhere outside of this top 10, because especially with Oklahoma just being number 11. So I think the best case scenario for the SEC is if Alabama loses, they stay in the top 10, Oklahoma comes into the top 10. And then Texas is already in the top 10. Georgia, if they play Georgia close, Texas is already here in the top 10. Georgia's in the top 10. If Texas were to win and Georgia takes a second loss, Georgia is still going to have an argument. So the only way really to keep the 4 of these teams here is for Oklahoma and Texas to win. If Oklahoma and Texas win, then the 4 of them are all still viable to get in the college football playoff. But if Texas loses to Georgia and Oklahoma loses to Alabama, they're both out of this thing, which is going to give a easier road to Notre Dame, who's done a whole lot of nothing. But it opens the door to Vanderbilt rising up this thing in the SEC. With the cancellation of Texas and Oklahoma, Vanderbilt gets a shot to squeak into this thing, and now we're looking at a college football playoff that would have Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and maybe they wouldn't have another SEC school. So if they have 3 from the Big Ten and they have 4 from the SEC, then maybe, just maybe, that opens the door to the ACC in getting more than one team in, which I already think they should. But of course, some of those networks out there like to push narratives, and they push the narrative and they keep the narrative, and no matter what anybody says, it's going to be the narrative. But if there was a world where Alabama and Georgia both won, then, and I mean, at some point, PJ, like, we're looking at the fact that they're putting these 3 and they're protecting these 3 up here because they're undefeated. But Indiana plays a terrible schedule. They should absolutely go undefeated outside of at Oregon and at Iowa. Ohio State plays a terrible schedule outside of getting a test against Michigan and playing Texas. and Texas A&M hasn't played a strong SEC schedule this season. So, I mean, at some point, PJ, if Alabama has one loss and Georgia has one loss, I mean, I know that these teams above them are undefeated, but if all you have to do is go undefeated, no matter who you play, and the argument is, well, you got to play the teams ahead of you, Dan. We can't control where somebody ends up at the end of this, and it's not our fault. Well, then in that case, South Florida should have been in the top 3. Memphis should have been in the top 3. Years ago, UCF should have been the number 1 team in America. So what I'm essentially saying to you is, if Alabama has one loss and Georgia has one loss, and that continues after this week with Alabama beating Oklahoma and Georgia beating Texas, at what point does a one-loss team creep into the top 3 and bump out one of these undefeated teams that could be smoke and mirrors because they haven't really had great competition?
True, and that won't happen. They won't let those 3 teams down. But what I'm looking at with these scenarios that you just mentioned, and not talking about Vanderbilt yet. Yeah. There's 6 teams, SEC teams, that are going to be in this playoff. 6 out of the 12, and maybe 7 if Vanderbilt squeaks in somehow. So, folks around the country, if you think it's fair, you got to say something about it. But I can see that. I can see a distinct 6-team SEC in this scenario.
Yeah, and I forgot Ole Miss, which is my fault. So they would still have 5 if somehow Texas is out of this thing and Oklahoma's out of this thing as well. They would still have 5 because we would be talking about a world that would have Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, which is 3 right there. And then you would look to them having Vanderbilt, which is 4, and then Texas A&M, which is 5 here. But, I mean, the question becomes, does Texas A&M at some point trip in this thing? Because if Texas A&M is to trip, then Alabama and Georgia will be chomping at the bit. Now, if Georgia and Alabama have the same record, Georgia will not and should not pass Alabama because Alabama beat them head-to-head. So that should not happen. But when we look at the SEC and we look at the schedule this week, Texas A&M has South Carolina, who hasn't really been a threat to anybody. Texas A&M's schedule, PJ, this season, UTSA unranked, Utah State unranked. They beat Notre Dame on the road 41-40. That's their quad 1 win. Then they beat Auburn, who's unranked, beat Mississippi State, who's unranked, beat Florida, who's unranked, beat Arkansas on the road unranked, beat LSU, who was ranked at the time but is not ranked anymore, so I'll consider it like a quad 2 win. They beat them on the road. They blew them out, and now LSU's not ranked. And then they beat Missouri, who was ranked at the time, and then they knocked Missouri out of the top 25, rightly so. Missouri hasn't had a great season. Now, Texas A&M, South Carolina is not really a threat. Samford's not a threat. But then they have to go to Texas. So that game where the Aggies go to Arlington, this is the question that I have for you, PJ. In that matchup, in that game, with the Texas Longhorns hosting Texas A&M, I mean, Texas has a really tough road to get here. Texas A&M doesn't, but I mean, Alabama's, and again, when we talk about who is actually the best team in the country, whose road has been tougher than Alabama playing 4 ranked SEC teams in a row and having 5 of 6 in a row be ranked SEC schools, and they've beaten them all. But when you look at Texas, PJ, Texas, in order for Texas to get into the college football playoff, they have to beat Georgia and Texas A&M within the next 3 weeks. That's going to be a tough road to hoe for Arch Manning and the crew.
That's true. I don't see that happening. Again, this is such a fluid situation, and you present these cases very well. So, we'll talk about this on Sunday when the polls come out and whatever they do with this 12-team bracket pick. So things will be different, Daniel, when we talk next week anyway. So
it's very true. And the committee's made it very clear that they see no value in anything outside of the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, or ACC. They put Memphis at 12. Now they have South Florida at 12. But I would like to remind the College Football Playoff Committee that the American Conference has, I believe, 6 teams that could play in their championship game right now. And I think if you're going to put Michigan and Tennessee in here, then you need to start working out Tulane being in the top 25. You need to start working out SMU, who beat Miami. If you regard Miami as a top 20 team, you got to think about putting SMU in here, the ACC. You got to maybe think about putting Memphis back in here somewhere. You got South Florida in there. You got to think about James Madison getting in here somewhere. So these are all conversations to be had, because you don't have to just continue to throw more and more Big Ten teams into the top 25 to make it look like Indiana and Ohio State have good wins. And Michigan's done absolutely, positively nothing this season. Well, Dan, they only have one loss. Yeah, to Oklahoma. All their other losses are against who? Unranked teams. Nonsense. Like, if you beat Purdue in the Big Ten, you're a good team. So in that case, Alabama shouldn't be punched for losing to Florida State. Alabama shouldn't have to suffer that. Because if beating Rutgers and beating Purdue is a good thing, and beating Wisconsin's a good thing, and beating Michigan State's a good thing, and beating a winless in the conference Penn State is a good thing for Indiana, well, then losing to Florida State shouldn't be such a bad thing. Because, I mean, if you're going to give glory to beating teams that have no wins in their conference, or little to no wins in their conference, then why are you punching Alabama, saying, well, you lost to Florida State, that's going to haunt you forever? Yeah, and they went 8-0 since then. Remember when they wanted to fire Kalen DeBoer last year during his first season in Alabama? Let's remember those days. So, PJ, I'm going to pick up our picks here that we had this past week. Take a look at how we did in our selections, because I know we got to run through a bunch of things in short order here. So we're going to take a look at the picks that PJ and I had for college football week 11. And those college football picks are on your screen right now. How did we do? Well, let's jump right into it. And we're going to go back to week 11 here and assess the situation. Now, the game Tulane against Memphis, I had the opportunity of watching this game. I picked Tulane to win the game. The game went back and forth until Tulane said enough is enough, and they took control of this. John Summerall, who is somebody I've built a good relationship with, the head coach of the Tulane Green Wave, his name's been brought up a lot. It's been brought up with Auburn. I'm not surprised, and at the same time, I really want him to stay in Tulane. I think it's going to be a difficult thing to do, but Tulane wins this game 38-32, so I get this one right. PJ got it wrong, so we're going to go ahead and give ourselves the marker here and make sure that we put this up as I got this one right. PJ's been getting the best of me these last few weeks. Let's see how we do this week. So let's go ahead and circle Tulane here, and PJ had picked Memphis. The next one that we had was the Georgia matchup, and obviously the Georgia Bulldogs we've been talking about a lot here. They've continued to win, so they beat Mississippi State. Bulldog versus Bulldog, 41-21. We both had Georgia. And then Texas Tech at BYU. PJ going with Texas Tech. I went with BYU. BYU, again, another team, 8-1. No notable wins outside of if they had beaten Texas Tech. Texas Tech's in the front seat of this one. Iowa played really tough at home against Oregon. They lost by 2 points, 18-16, so we got that wrong. We know Texas A&M still undefeated, so PJ and I got that one right. And then Vanderbilt. They're out here doing their thing. Vanderbilt beats Auburn in overtime. Ashton Daniels is someone I've built a good relationship with when he was the quarterback at Stanford, and then he transferred after helping Stanford beat Syracuse. He transferred on to Auburn, and he had a heck of a game here. And they went to overtime, 45-38. Vanderbilt wins. Vanderbilt is a team that should be in this college football playoff. I'm going to say it and say it and say it until they do it. Virginia loses their game to Wake Forest at home, but they also lost their quarterback, Chandler Morris. Now, if this was Notre Dame, they wouldn't fault them by losing by one possession, because Notre Dame's number 9 in the country for losing to Miami and for losing to Texas A&M. Who have they beaten, folks? Who have they beaten is the question. They're getting credit for almost beating somebody. Well, Virginia almost beat Wake Forest without their starting quarterback at the end of the game, and Virginia fell multiple spots, almost out of the top 20. Alabama wins their game against LSU 20-9. They, the talk going into the game was maybe Brian Kelly was the problem and they're going to show it in this game and win it and whatever. No, Alabama's a good team. LSU, again, you fire your coach midseason outside of like a sex scandal or something atrocious that a coach would do. If you fire your coach during a season, you're telling us things ain't going well. And I'm not going to sit there and regard those teams as good teams. The Penn States, LSU. Now, I do think LSU is better than Penn State, arguably, but who knows? Because LSU has been so underwhelming, maybe they would lose that game. Notre Dame beats Navy 49-10. The weather was bad toward the end of this thing, and Navy was bad in the game as well. Louisville gets the loss here against Cal 29-26 in overtime. Again, if it was Notre Dame, would they have fallen 4 or 5 spots? Probably not. Florida, that we both picked in their matchup, the Florida Go Gators were in their game. And Florida, when we go back and look at their game against Kentucky, they lost that game 38-7. PJ and I got that one wrong. And the Miami Hurricanes, are they still? I mean, this is a team that I tell people all the time. The last 3 years, smoke and mirrors. They lose 1 or 2 games at some point, but the committee likes them for whatever reason. 38, probably because they make a lot of money. 38-10, they beat Syracuse. Syracuse held them to no score until almost the entire first half, and then the doors blew open. Why? Because Syracuse's defense is good, but they can't stay on the field the whole entire game, and Syracuse's offense doesn't move the ball, which leaves their defense on the field for the majority of the game, which is why Miami blew them out. But for Miami to rise up multiple spots for beating a bad Syracuse team, again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So let's take a look at this. So PJ's 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5, 6-3, 6-4, 6-5, 7-5 PJ was this week. And I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 5 as well. So PJ did not get me on this one. PJ, any thoughts from last week in college football?
No, I'm just really anxious to get things stopped here. I don't. I hate to keep talking about ifs and whens or maybes. I want to see something tangible. And I guess we talk about the best teams usually probably will win this week probably. But other than that, nothing surprised me. The only thing that disappointed me was the Florida deal. I thought that Billy Gonzalez had the kids ready, and Langway was ready to blossom a little bit more maybe, but he didn't do it, and he got benched. So I don't know who's going to start this week. I guess Lane thinks that DJ's going to play, so he's going to be watching DJ pretty close. Florida has no chance in this game at all, Daniel. There's nothing there at all. They'll probably get beat worse than they got beat by Kentucky last week. So let's hope that the kids can do something right.
Yeah, and with PJ,
it's like Syracuse, Syracuse isn't going anywhere either. Once they lost their quarterback, everything failed. So, but their defense played tough. I did watch them for a while, but Miami's got a bunch of weapons. Carson Beck, when he's on, boy, I tell you, when he's on, he's better than anyone in the country. He hasn't been that much on. He's got athletes down there. I don't know why he doesn't show better, but maybe he will.
Yeah, Carson Beck doing a heck of a job and winning some games and keeping them in the conversation here. But Miami is on dangerous territory right now. They can't lose again. PJ and I are going to be now giving our picks for college football week 12. So let's get into these picks, PJ. You'll be on the left side. I'll be on the right on the screens you're seeing. For those of you that are listening on Podbean, we will let you know what's going on here. So, PJ, we're going to go into college football week 12, and we're going to start making these picks, and we'll go first and foremost to the game that's on Friday. And there's 2 games on Friday night. Would either one of these be Triplum games? We'll start with Clemson at 20th ranked Louisville.
Boy, Clemson's disappointed this year. Their defense is still pretty tough. Klubnik has improved him to be a top-tier quarterback. but I still like them. I think the defense wins this game.
Yeah, I think. So you think that Louisville's going to win or Clemson?
No, Clemson.
Okay, so PJ's saying that this game might knock Louisville out of the contention for any hope of a college football playoff here. So interesting that PJ's going with that. Clemson at Louisville. Clemson's obviously struggled this season, and they have not had a season that people would hope that they would have. But I would say if this is not a great season, it's the first time that we're seeing Dabo go through this in a million years. So PJ's going with Clemson. I'm going to go with Louisville. I think Louisville stays hot. I warned you all at the beginning of the season that a team in red could be in the ACC title game. We could have two teams in red because that team, it was either between Louisville or SMU. Both of those teams are alive currently with the opportunity to be in the ACC championship game. So that's something to look to and something to pay attention to for sure. When we look, PJ, going into the next piece here, which is going to be another game on Friday night, does Oregon trip at all against Minnesota at home in Oregon?
No, this one's will be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, PJ going with Oregon in this matchup. I'm also going to go with the Ducks, and I got to do it because I'm an Anaheim Duck fan. So we got to get the quack. We got to get the quack out here and get them ready for that one. So I'm going with the Oregon Ducks to win the game here, and I think Oregon again. I mean, Oregon hasn't played that great of a schedule, but at least I do think they're a good team. I think they're a dangerous team. I like what Dan Lanning is doing. Notre Dame at Pittsburgh. This is where College Game Day is going to be. The game's at noon on ABC. What do you got, PJ?
Well, I'd love to see Notre Dame lose, but I don't think they do it against Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's at home. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for me. But I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. I think they got a shot to win this game.
Yeah, PJ going with Pittsburgh in this matchup to win the game. And you know what? I mean, PJ, it's a real deal thing here. I mean, Pittsburgh, I tell people, like, when they've had a rough moment or two, how many rough moments do they actually have? How many times can you actually sit here and say that Pittsburgh has been a bad team under Pat Narduzzi? It doesn't happen often. And we look at their losses at West Virginia, which is a rivalry game from the old Big East, and then they lost to Louisville, which is also an old Big East game. Then they've beaten Boston College, at Florida State, at Syracuse, NC State, who recently, and then they beat Stanford on the road. And when we talk about NC State and the Wolfpack, you got to remember NC State handed Georgia Tech their only loss of the season so far. So that's saying something, and Pittsburgh beat them. So this Notre Dame game is going to be huge. I remember when Pitt hosted Notre Dame a few years back, they almost got them. It was one of those games where it was like they couldn't get into the end zone. It's a low-scoring game. Well, this time around, I'm going with Pittsburgh. And a 3-loss Notre Dame team, do not speak their name for the rest of the year. Anybody of the talking heads don't. Well, if Texas loses to and a butterfly flies and then I eat a sandwich and the grilled cheese has different cheese in it and then I have a pickle, but then I looked at the... No. If they lose, good night, goodbye, good luck. I have nothing against Notre Dame. Nothing against Notre Dame. But in what world is this team in the top 9? You're acting like they beat Texas A&M. You're acting like they beat Miami. They didn't beat these teams. Well, they almost did. Well, they passed the eye test, Dan. What does that mean? What does that mean? You know what, PJ? If you pass the eye test at the doctor, do you get to play in the college football playoff? No, you don't. Maybe have to get a new pair of glasses. So I'm going with Pittsburgh. I'm not seeing this through the committee's we need Notre Dame because Notre Dame makes us money. I'm going with Pittsburgh to win this game. Pittsburgh, this would be a high-quality victory for you, and I think being at home, they got a shot. It's the doozer, and we know that they could put up points. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh to win this game. If Notre Dame wins, then they'll have their highest quality win of the season because USC is not that game. So let's just be real about it. Notre Dame has beaten USC. What else have they done? What? Well, they beat Navy, Dan. They always beat Navy. Well, they almost won, and then there was a... No, stop. Okay? Stop. If Notre Dame can play a shit schedule and keep getting in the playoff, then why is the ACC even competing? Why is the American even playing football? That's the question that I ask. Because Notre Dame doesn't, the committee talks about, it matters if you play in your championship game. It matters even if you play and you lose in your championship game. Notre Dame doesn't have a championship game because they're not in a conference. So there's all of these rules that apply to everybody else in America, 135 teams, but not Notre Dame. Because I'd rather the committee just say, hey, that school makes us a lot of money. That logo's known all over the world. We're going to do everything we can to get that team in every year. Just say it. Just say it. Because we know it's true. I want teams to win on the field. I don't care about the eye test. I don't care about the movie Rudy when it comes to the rankings. I do like the movie, but I'm not here for that. I am here for who is playing, who is winning, who are they beating, who are they losing to, what do the matchups look like, and what is going on. Stop punishing teams that are winning because you have to have Notre Dame in. Let's just be real. So
that's a good one. That was a good rant, Daniel. That was a good one.
Thank you, PJ.
You were working up to that rant, though. I could tell.
Oh, you know what? It was so easy for me. So let's go into the next one. It's easy when it's true. Let's go into South Florida at Navy. Navy, still a good team this year, still a bowl team this year. South Florida, do they trip or do the Bulls come in, handle Navy, and maybe, just maybe, move up the rankings? Because remember, and by the way, PJ, I want to tell you this, the committee, when they were talking about South Florida, the committee still gives them credit for beating Boise State and beating Florida. Despite the fact that Boise State and Florida have dipped out of the top 25, the committee still likes the wins that South Florida's had over them. So if South Florida beats a Navy, well, that's another feather in their cap if they're going to look at teams that have had good seasons and that are at the top of their... Navy's at the top of their conference right now. So, a win over Navy puts South Florida in prime position to be in the American Championship game, which right now is wide open to at least 5 teams in the conference. South Florida at Navy, what do you got?
Well, Navy's the typical Army, Navy, Air Force ball control running attacks. They possibly could wear the defense down for South Florida, but I think you're going to see the discrepancy in the athletes on the field, and that bodes well for South Florida. I think they overcome this and they'll win the game.
Yeah, so PJ going with South Florida in the matchup. I'm also going to go with USF. I think they're going to be playing in the American Championship game. I'm excited to see what's going to happen here, but I got a lot of respect for Navy and Brian Newberry, and I got a lot of respect for South Florida and Alex Golish. By the way, Alex Golish will be a special guest on Wake Up Call coming up next week. Randy Edsall was a special guest this week, longtime coach, and we did a special nighttime show with East Carolina that's very much alive in the American hunt for the championship game, and their head coach Blake Harrell, and Rhett Lashley of SMU is going to be joining me on the broadcast, and you do not want to miss Rhett Lashley, who gets very open about a lot of things. We have a great relationship, and you should not miss that episode. Next one that we have coming up here, PJ, Arkansas at LSU. Arkansas has tried to play spoiler. LSU used to be ranked. Brian Kelly still trying to find out if he's going to get paid. What happens with this one, PJ?
I think LSU hangs on with this one.
Oh, PJ going with LSU to get this victory here. I'm going to go... where do I want to go with this one? I'm going to go with Arkansas. I'm going to go with Arkansas to do something here and to make it a little bit interesting here. I'm going with Arkansas to win the game. Next one that we got up, PJ. This is a small game. It's not really going to be highly viewed. I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to it. I think it's probably one of the lower games this week. Probably a boring game. Oklahoma at Alabama. Who do you got?
This is the game of the week right here.
Yes.
If they're playing at Alabama, you got to go with Alabama. Quarterback for Oklahoma, who got hurt early in the year with a hand injury. He really wasn't gripping the ball that well. He's played a lot better the last couple of weeks, but Alabama's defense is going to wear this guy's out.
So PJ going with Fly Slamma Jamma Bama in this matchup against Oklahoma, where the wind goes. What is it? Where the wind goes swinging down? I don't even know the words. Where the wind goes swinging down the. I don't even want to say it because it's probably wrong. So PJ going with Alabama. I'm also going to be going with Alabama in this one. The best team in the country. The best team in the country is Alabama, folks. And we may not see that if, I mean, you're going to have Alabama play Georgia in the quarterfinals, really? And you're going to have Ohio State play Oregon again? Like, arguably? I mean, come on. That's got to switch up. NC State at Miami. Does Miami take their third loss? NC State beat Georgia Tech, PJ. NC State has taken down the likes of Georgia Tech this season. And when you look at Georgia Tech and you look at what Georgia Tech has done, you say to yourself, okay, well, this is a team that's done some good things. They only have one loss as well. So NC State is no slouch. They're going to Miami, but Miami, they've been somewhat underwhelming. What do you think?
I think they're overwhelming this week. I think they win a game.
All right, PJ going Miami. By the way, I don't know what Miami's doing, or shout out to Ron DeSantis. Maybe he's doing something as the governor of Florida, but the tickets are $6 again. So I'm gonna go with Miami in this one as well. I think they show up in this matchup. I love Dave Doran, though. I got a lot of respect for Dave, and NC State spent over a decade talking with a coach that I think is great at finding talent, that being Mr. Dave Doran. And shout out to Mario Cristobal and the work that he's doing and the talent that he's found, and obviously bringing in Carson Beck, which I'm sure was not cheap. Iowa at USC. Iowa is an interesting team to me because, in my opinion, outside of Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State, Iowa is the only other team that I would even consider for the college football playoff coming from the Big Ten. They're on the road at USC. USC has done a whole lot of nothing. What do you got, PJ? Iowa, USC.
This is a pick'em game, really. The only reason I think Southern Cal is probably favored is because they're playing at home. But Iowa's played tough, and I like them in this game.
Now, I'm going to go with Iowa, too. I'm going with the Iowa Hawkeyes. If you play Oregon tough, I think you can handle USC. So I'm going to go with Iowa to win this matchup. Hopefully they bounce back. Let that loss not beat them twice. That 18-16 offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach of Iowa, did a feature with him, Tim Lester. You can go back and watch it on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Next one we got up here, PJ, I'm sorry, but Florida at Ole Miss.
Well, this will be a romp. This will be tough to watch, but I'm going to watch it. But Ole Miss is going to roll.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lane train. Does the Lane train beat the Gators and then coach the Gators? That's the question that people are asking themselves. And how much money can you pay Lane Kiffin? Well, you pay him more than you were giving Nick Saban back in the day. We shall see. I'm not going to talk about Indiana and Ohio State because they're playing garbage competition when it comes to the overall grand scheme of things. It's no disrespect to UCLA, and it's no disrespect to Wisconsin. It's just these are not viable. These aren't high-quality matchups. These are not tests. I mean, and you talk to a coach about it, something I've said forever. When you're playing competition that doesn't truly test you and you win when you get to the postseason, it's because you haven't been beaten and bruised like other teams have. You're playing. If Indiana's in the SEC, is Indiana 6-3? Are they a 5-win team right now? I mean, if Indiana played Alabama's schedule, which is also what Paul Feinbaum had said, what would they look like right now? I mean, Indiana's playing an easy road, and like I told people, they should be undefeated because that road is really, really friggin' easy. There ain't no rubble on that road. There's no debris on that road. There's no cones on that road. That is the nicest paved road that you can get to a championship game. Now, let's go to Texas at Georgia. This is what I don't like, because to the Indianas and the Notre Dames of the world, they're going to stay high as long as they keep beating teams that are unranked, where the SEC is literally going to knock each other out of the college football playoff, even though they're probably the better teams, arguably. Texas at Georgia, what do you have?
Defense is going to win this game for Georgia, Daniels.
All right, well, you know what? I can't trust what Texas is doing. They've been too much of a roller coaster this year. So as much as I like them and I respect them and I put them in my top 10, I got to go with Georgia to win this matchup as well. And Syracuse is off this week, so they can't lose. That's cool. And then I'm going to go to one more game, PJ. And that game that I'm going to pick as I roll the dice here is going to be, I have to go to this game because this game is huge implications for the American. 4 p.m. Eastern time on ESPNU, Memphis at East Carolina. Both of these teams are vying for the opportunity to play for an American championship. Whoever loses this game is probably out. So what do you got, PJ?
I like Memphis.
PJ going with Memphis. Memphis on the road against East Carolina. I'm going to just make this whole thing go crazy. I'm going with East Carolina and the Pirates to have that ship launch in a bunch of times to get a very close win, maybe in overtime, against the Memphis Tigers. I'm going with East Carolina, who's flying under the radar right now. PJ and I are going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we're going to go through the NFL quickly here as we will be bringing you our NFL recap of Week 10. We're going to make our Week 11 picks, and then we will get you all set and ready to go for Thursday Night Football, which is coming up in just a few hours. So PJ and I will be back right after this.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you hanging out with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City is located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. You can go there for sales and service Monday through Saturday. Let them know the DT sent you their way to Great Lakes Honda City, and you can get a sneak peek of what they have to buy and lease. Their new and used vehicles are on GreatLakesHondaCity.com. That's GreatLakesHondaCity.com. And our players of the week that came to you earlier today, shout out once again to Myers Creek and all the good things that they're doing in the community as well. Shout out to Colby and Cody and the whole team, Nick and the crew. Much appreciation for the work that you do. So, PJ, we're going to jump into now getting our picks here that are up for, I'm going to actually adjust this here for a second and just make sure our NFL picks are set and ready to go, because we're going to be making those NFL picks in just a few moments for Week 11. But we're going to go to our Week 10 picks, and PJ and I are going to get those up on the screen right now for you to let you see who we had in Week 10 of the NFL. And as we bring those teams up, there they are. We'll have a look at how we did throughout last week in the NFL before we make our picks for this week. Papa Joe and I, happy to give you the picks every single week where sports meets life here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we appreciate you spending your time with us. And, of course, PJ with us on Thursdays always means the world. So let's go to the
Raiders.
Raiders. There it is. So we have the Denver game. They called this a boring game. They made fun of this game, but Denver won. And did they make fun of the Philly-Green Bay game the same way? Because Philly won that game 10-7. So, and those are two primetime games: Thursday Night Football for Denver, Vegas, and then Monday Night Football, for Philadelphia and Green Bay. We both picked Denver. Denver got the win. Denver's 8-2. They nasty. So they're doing very well out there. Indianapolis gives a good game to Madrid, Spain. Shout out to my family out in Spain, and I hope they watch this game. 31-25. Indianapolis wins over Atlanta in overtime. So it's a big-time game for both teams there. And Daniel Jones just out there killing it. Love it. He's wearing a jersey that's almost identical to the jersey that he wore at Duke, where I interviewed him, and his coach, the guru of quarterbacks, Mr. David Cutcliffe, one of those awesome gurus out there. Chi-Town beat the Giants, and after Chi-Town beat the Giants, I picked Chicago. PJ went with the Giants. They fired their head coach, Brian Daboll. And what did Brian... and after they fired Brian Daboll, what did the Giants do, PJ? They said, move over, everybody. Jackson Dart's in concussion protocol. We hope he gets better. But the guy that was there before him, he's not coming back because Daboll's out, which means that the man that's got the keys to the Giants vehicle going into Week 11 is the myth, the legend, the guy that PJ has cards of. He collects them. He loves them. He eats crab legs because of them. Jameis mother freaking Winston. What's up, PJ?
I feel so sorry for the Giants right now. They actually have to play this guy. But you know what? Jameis is still functional. He's tall. He can see over the lineman. So if he can keep the ball in his receiver's hands and not give him to the defense, he'll probably be all right.
Papa Joe. What does he say? He's tall and he can see over the lineman. That's like, what did they say about one person? They're like, hey, can you say something nice about your ex? And they go, they're alive. And so, I mean, that's PJ. He's too kind, and he's playing it really coy right now because he loves Jameis something fierce. Miami ends up beating Buffalo. PJ and I got that one wrong, and who got that one right? I'm sure that there was a lot of money that maybe was happening with people that just said, hey, I'm putting money in Vegas on Miami because why not? And Miami won the game 30-13. Buffalo is just a confusing team this year. Baltimore beat Lake Minnetonka. PJ had Baltimore on the road. I had Minnesota at home, so I got that one wrong. And then Cleveland loses to the New York Jets, 27-20. The Jets have gutted themselves, but Cleveland still lost to them. And by the way, Justin Fields, I think he was 6 of 11 in this game. He threw 11 passes in the game, and they won. I mean, that just goes to show you how bad Cleveland is, man. What is going on with this Cleveland team? And then we look just historically. Then we look at the Tom Brady Bowl. New England beats Tampa. PJ had Tampa. I had New England on the road. And Drake May and the crew are just killing it out there. Shout out to them. New Orleans, again, Carolina's played better this year. But there's always that weird week where all these teams in the NFL win, and it's like a collective head scratcher. It's not one or two games. It's multiple games. New Orleans beats Carolina. New Orleans has barely beaten anybody outside of themselves, but they beat Carolina, so we got that one wrong. And Jacksonville gives up 26 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. That's 26 points in less than 15 minutes because Houston didn't have the ball the whole 15 minutes. So that's more. I mean, think about that. 26 points in less than 15 minutes. That's, what is, mathematically, it blows your mind. Because even if it was 15 minutes, it's still more than a point a minute. They were up 29-10. And in the fourth quarter, they let Houston outscore them 26-0. And not C.J. Stroud. Davis Mills, the backup quarterback who came from Stanford, 26 points, PJ, in the fourth quarter. Jacksonville loses the game 36-29. We both got it wrong. Davis Mills made Jacksonville look stupid. How does this Jacksonville team beat the Chiefs and then give up 26 points unanswered to a backup quarterback?
I was stunned watching this. I'm telling myself now they can't be doing this. And they kept scoring, and I says, it's a possibility. And Mary's trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
Well, they have to get a 2-point conversion here, and they got to do this. And damn if they didn't do it. I mean, I'm surprised that Liam Cohen still got a job.
A
defensive coordinator still got a job. It was awful.
Yeah, this game was a head scratcher. And then I'm sitting here thinking C.J. Stroud, and it's like, no, he's in concussion protocol. That was Davis Mills. So not only did they allow almost 30 points in one quarter, but they did it with a backup quarterback. So just crazy. Crazy. And shout out to Davis and Houston for taking advantage of Jacksonville's defense that started off number one in the country, I believe, in takeaways and has since been not great, is probably the nicest way I can put it. Seattle took care of Arizona 44. So here's the crazy thing, PJ. Seattle beats Arizona 44-22. So if you look at that score, you say Arizona had 22 points, Seattle had 44. Arizona's quarterback Jacoby Brissett went 22 of 44 passing. So he had the score in what he did completion to attempt, and so we got that one right. The Rams beat the Niners. We both had that one. So the Los Angeles Rams, Matt Stafford flying under the radar. Detroit beats Washington 44-22. So two 44-22 games. Very interesting that those were the games that happened this week, how they happened. And then we picked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh did not look good on Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers get that win 25-10. So PJ got that one wrong. I went with the Chargers. I got that one right. I leaned on the side of the Chargers. And then Philadelphia beats Green Bay. We both got that one right. MT, don't listen. So looking back at this one, we got 1-2. So PJ went 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 3-5, 3-6, 4-6, 5-6, 6-6. And then you went 7-7 this week, PJ. For NFL Wk10, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I went 9-5, and PJ went 7-7. Any thoughts, PJ, on NFL Wk10 before we make our picks?
Just disgusting the way Jacksonville played, and there's no other way to put it. Liam Cohen, I know he was pretty pissed because he threw down his headset and stuff even before the end. So I don't know what they got. Travis Hunter now is out for the rest of the year for his surgery on his knee, or not his knee, his ankle, something like that. So, Brian Thomas doesn't look like himself. They have no place to turn. I mean, you got Parker Washington is doing a good job.
Yeah.
They signed another guy this last week. Now I even forgot his name. He caught a couple passes. So I don't know. The defense has got to step up. That's all.
Yeah, you got to hope that, the defense wakes up, which obviously they did not do in this last game, and they didn't do it in a big way. Giving up 26 points and then going, man, C.J. Stroud had a day, and you're like, nah, that was Davis Mills. So not to discredit Davis Mills, just saying you give up 26 unanswered points when you're up 29-10. That's bad. And then when you look at it and say that wasn't even the starting quarterback, that was the backup quarterback. So, that says something, because Davis Mills hasn't been out there for a while because C.J. Stroud has been the guy. But I'm happy to see Davis Mills out there. And Jacksonville, just very poor performance. PJ, tonight we're going to see on Amazon Prime the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. The Patriots are so freaking good this year. So I'd love to get your thoughts, PJ, as we take a look and we make our picks. What do you have for the Jets at the Patriots?
I think New England keeps going. Coach Vrabel's done a hell of a job there. They're making people believe. And I believe him.
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to question Mike Vrabel. After what he did at Tennessee, then he throw his ass out.
Yeah.
No, he's too tough.
Yeah. Well, he did a great job at Tennessee. They threw him out. Now they're terrible. The New England Patriots made the decision that I thought they should have made a year before, and now they're one of the best teams in the country. So, looks like Mike Vrabel's a good coach. I'm just saying. I'm going with New England as well in this matchup, and happy to see that New England finally decided to bring Mike Vrabel home. And it's no offense to Mayo at all. I thought Mike Vrabel was going to be where they were going to go. They finally went there. Let's go to a game that's going to be played the game that was last week, I think it was played in Germany. I said Spain for last week. So the Indianapolis Colts Atlanta Falcons game, I believe, was played in Germany. My apologies on that. This week is in Spain, in Madrid. Washington at Miami, PJ. What do you have for this? It's a 9:30 a.m. game for us because it's 5 hours ahead of time for them out in Spain. So what do you have for Washington, Miami?
I like Tua.
PJ likes Tua in this game. So he's going to go with Tua Tagovailoa. PJ, say it.
I can't.
It's like DJ Uyunglele, and PJ called him Little Tua. That's what he called him. So PJ going with Miami in this matchup. I'm also going Miami in this matchup. They just beat the Bills, and the Washington Commanders have been just limping their way through the season due to injury, which makes me really sad because I thought they were a potential Super Bowl team, and with all these injuries, it's not going to happen. So God bless to them healing up and getting better, hopefully finishing strong and having a great future with Jaden Daniels and the crew. Let's go to Carolina and Atlanta. What do you got, PJ? Carolina's been up and down. Atlanta's been up and down. Neither one of these teams has been consistent. What do you got?
I think Atlanta wins at home.
PJ going with hot mother freaking Atlanta. I'm going to go, I don't know where I want to go in this one. Do I want to go with the home team, or will Carolina lose 2 in a row? Remember, Carolina, when they played this game in Charlotte at the Bank of America Stadium that I've been around all too many times, they blew out Atlanta 30-0 in that game. So PJ's going with hot Atlanta. I'm going with Carolina to go into Mercedes-Benz Stadium that I also know very well, thanks to God. And I'm gonna go Carolina in this game to get the victory. Bryce Young is looking a little bit better as time's gone on, so I'm happy to see that that's happening for him, and it's good for Carolina, who's had, they were rotating coaches and quarterbacks like underpants, and now hopefully they can maybe have some continuity. Tampa at Buffalo. Tampa has looked good, and then they've been really bad in certain games. Buffalo's looked good, and then they've been really bad, like last week against Miami. So both of these teams, you would think are going to be playoff teams, but they've also had games that make you really sit back and wonder what the hell's going on. Tampa at Buffalo, what do you got?
Not going to happen this week, Buffalo.
PJ going with the Buffalo Billies, and I'm going to also go with Buffalo Bills as well. The Tampa, I like Tampa, and I love that Sean Tucker, undrafted free agent, single season rushing yard leader in Syracuse football history, passing Joe Morris and the crew. Sean Tucker, third season with Tampa, continues to get work. They continue to put him out there. Undrafted free agent to being one of the 3 running backs that you see. I think you're going to see him in this game if Bucky's unable to go. And God bless and a speedy recovery for Bucky Irving as well. A good young good young running back, in the NFL. Let's go Houston at Tennessee. Tennessee's had a lot of problems. Houston, with or without C.J. Stroud, seems to be doing pretty well. You can go to this game, PJ, in Tennessee for $13. What do you got?
Houston.
PJ going with the Houston Texans. I'm also going to go with the Houston Texans. As much as they've had some interesting moments, I think they're getting better as a team, and Tennessee is just, they're struggling, and it's rough. It's a rough go. I think they made a bad decision on getting rid of the coach they had, and we'll see what they do from here, but don't hate on Cam Ward, folks. Many a quarterback that are rookies struggle the first year out. So we'll see what he does as we move forward. This is going to be a good game. Caleb Williams is having a better sophomore season, which I predicted, and J.J. McCarthy, he's doing well too. So what do you got, PJ? Chicago at Minnesota?
I like Minnesota in this game.
PJ going with Minnesota at home. I'm also going to pick Minnesota at home, but I feel like this is going to be a close one. This is going to be like a 20-something. This might be an overtime field goal, but I'm also going to pick Minnesota. I do like Chicago this year. I think Chicago has the opportunity to be a playoff team. Next one,
I got to go for a minute.
Sure. So PJ jumping off here for a second. We'll take a quick step aside. When we come back, him and I will take a look at Green Bay at the New York Giants. Who are we picking? That board is up here. It'll stay up when we come back, and we will finish off the board right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life from inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing. And so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing, amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
New York, great cars, great people, Great Lakes. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. PJ and I are jumping right back into making these picks that we have. And as we make these picks for the NFL Week 11 of the 2025-26 season, we will go to our next matchup, which is Green Bay at the New York Giants. What do you got, PJ?
I think Green Bay bounces back this week.
Yeah, I got Green Bay in this one as well. Green Bay's been all over the place, but I think Green Bay is going to get the victory here. So we're both going to go with Green Bay. Next one that we have up, PJ, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. The last time these two played each other, it was a shootout between Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Flacco got the best of Rodgers. What do you got for this?
I wished he was back, but he's not. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, PJ going to go with Pitt in this game. This game's going to be on the road for Cincinnati, so PJ going with Pitt. And Cincinnati, I don't know. There's something cool about Joe Flacco. I just like the way he plays. It does his thing. I'm going with Cincinnati. He gets the ball out to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase better than Joe Burrow did, and more often than Joe Burrow did. It's wild how many catches. Jamar Chase now has the single-game record for Cincinnati Bengals for catches in a single game in their history, and that came from Joe Flacco, not from passes from Joe Burrow, which is incredible for Joe Flacco. Year 18. Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars, PJ.
I can't take the Jacksonville here. They're a team that I'm not familiar with right now. I think the Chargers are a better team anyway.
Yeah, the Chargers have been a really good team. And, I mean, Denver has done a great job. But, I mean, we're talking about the AFC West where the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs could all make the postseason. I like the Chargers in this game as well. Next one we have up here is Seattle at Los Angeles, the battle for first place in the NFC West. What do you got, PJ?
This is the game of the week right here. I think LA wins this game.
PJ going with the Rams at home. I'm also going to pick the Rams at home. I like Seattle. I think they're a good team, but I'm going to give the Rams the slight edge here because they are the home team, although, I mean, Rashid Shaheed with Jackson Smith and Jigma after the trade deadline, or before that trade deadline, for that happening, it's pretty cool there for Seattle. San Francisco at Arizona. This is another matchup within the NFC West. Both of these games are at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Arizona has Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback now. San Fran still riding high with Mac Jones, who has a winning record as their quarterback. What do you got, PJ?
Well, Mac Jones has really done a hell of a job. A hell of a job. It's good to see him stand back there and throw the way he should have been doing for us. I like San Fran.
Yeah, and remember that he likes to throw to Luke Farrell, who was also a former Jaguar. So Mac Jones showing that in Jacksonville he was the backup, but maybe he should be a starter somewhere. He's doing a hell of a job with San Fran. I got San Fran on the road as well. Baltimore at Cleveland. The former Cleveland Browns that are now the Baltimore Ravens, and then the new Cleveland Browns that came in 1999. So technically it's the Browns versus the Browns, and the Browns have been beating the Browns this season, but it's Baltimore. So what do you got, PJ, here? The old Browns or the new Browns?
Baltimore.
Yeah, so PJ going with the old Browns. I'm also going with the old Browns as well. I got the Baltimore Ravens winning this matchup on the road. Lamar Jackson is back, thank goodness, for the Baltimore Ravens. They miss a guy like him, something fierce. There's a reason why that dude is either the MVP or up in the running for MVP. Kansas City at Denver. Man, Denver's defense is psychotically good. Does Kansas City beat them on the road?
This is a serious game here for Kansas City. They need to win this. I like them.
PJ going with Kansas City. I'm going with Denver at home to pull it out. I think Denver's going to get the victory here. I trust that defense. Kansas City has been looking more like themselves, but I think Denver lets them know who the top team in the AFC West is. AFC West. It is the AFC West. I was confusing myself there. I think they're going to tell them who it is, and that's going to be the Denver Broncos. They win this game, they're going to be in really, really good footing, because keep in mind, Denver started off 3-0 by beating... Well, you look at what they did, or pardon me, I'm wrong on that. So Denver started off this season here with some good victories, and since then they beat the Raiders. So you think about it, they have a win over the Raiders. They did lose to the Chargers. They have not played the Chiefs yet. They're going to have to play them twice. I guess I was thinking about last season and how they started off the season. So I like Denver in this game, but this is going to be a tough game. This might be a dangerous move for me to make, but I'm going to lean on Denver. I know Kansas City's look more like themselves, like I said, but I got Denver winning. Sunday Night Football, Detroit at Philadelphia. What do you got, PJ?
Good game here. Second game of the week. This is a tough matchup. I think I like the Eagles at home. Their ball control. Jalen Hurts doing a good job moving things around. I think I like the Eagles.
Feels so good it hurts. They don't have them, though. So, I mean, am I going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles at home, or am I going to lean on Detroit, who has been up and down this year? Oh, this is a tough game for me. I'm going to go with Detroit. I'm going with Detroit on the road to get the win here. I made some dicey moves this week. We'll see how it goes for me. And then Dallas at the
Raiders.
The Raiders. So what do you got, PJ? The Colts are off. The Saints are off. Dallas at Vegas. What do you got?
It's an awful game. I like Dallas, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys in this one as well. The best bet that this team has, because they got injuries to multiple quarterbacks on their staff. So, I mean, the best bet that they're going to have in this game is to run the ball with Ashton Genty. I'm also going to go with the Dallas Cowboys in this. They got George Pickens. They got CeeDee Lamb. They got Jake Ferguson. They have Javonte Williams. They got too much in this game. I am going with them to win the matchup here. And with that being said, P to the Jizzle, J. Edgar of the Twizzle, we thank you for being on the show today, and we'll talk with you soon. God bless, and have a great week.
Same here. Bye-bye.
See you. So that coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take our final step aside on the broadcast here, and we will spin back around to round out today's broadcast. We thank you for staying with us in extra time. I never mind giving extra time when it comes to something that I absolutely positively love, which is what God lets me wake up and do every day. I do what I love, and I love what I do. So let's take a step aside, and we'll be back right after this to wrap up the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. We look forward to seeing you tonight at the Wildcat at 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. We will be on site, on location, as GG Cards and Breaks takes everything awesome that they do and brings it out to the Wildcat. We'll see you from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. tonight out in Camillus for trade night. Bring your Pokemon, Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, whatever you got when it comes to the card world, bring it out to GG Cards and Breaks trade night tonight on site at the Wildcat, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And you can visit the store for GG Cards and Breaks Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6, Sunday from 10 to 5 on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. I want to give a big time thanks and a shout out to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt as well. Much love to Chick-fil-A DeWitt. Can't thank them enough for all that they do and appreciate them so very much. Chick-fil-A DeWitt coming to you with Megan Sorber and her team, and they are there for you Monday through Saturday. Keep in mind that they are closed on Sundays, and you can go and visit Chick-fil-A in DeWitt today. Let them know that DT sent you their way, and make sure that you go out and enjoy some Chick-fil-A DeWitt, a fantastic place and wonderful people, and of course the Pretzel Cheddar Club that's available to you right now. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for being a part of this broadcast and for hanging out with us where sports meets life. And so happy to be here with you inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Of course, inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com is what's popping. We give you the list of topics for the day. Shout out to Myers Creek for bringing us the Player of the Week exclusively for Central and Upstate New York High Schools, as well as for Syracuse Football. For Central and Upstate New York High Schools, we honored the Rome Free Academy with their 18-1 field hockey season, winning a Section 3 Class A championship and going into states at 18-0 on the season at the time. And for Syracuse Football, honoring Gary Bryant III, who had one of the shining moments against Miami in a tough game to watch, definitely in the second half. He had a sack in the game. He had 6 total tackles, 4 solo, and he was a part of a defense that helped to keep Miami from scoring for almost the full 30 minutes, for 27-plus minutes of the first half. So shout out to Gary Bryant III, who transferred into Syracuse at the linebacker position. And, of course, many thanks to Randy Edsall and Papa Joe. Randy Edsall's special is airing by itself right now on YouTube and Facebook. So if you missed it or you want to watch it back or share it with someone, it's on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, which is where we also are right now, and on WakeUpCall dt.podbean.com, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time and beyond. Many thanks to everybody who's been with us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Find us by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And many thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes, Honda City, Carvel, DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Myers Creek, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Pizza Man, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Game Point Sports Complex, Chick-fil-A DeWitt, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, Avicoli's, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, as well as your Binghamton University Bearcats and your Onondaga Community College Lasers. You will find them all by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find our BSC Syracuse playlist for the Bobcats, our Binghamton playlist for the Bearcats, and our OCC playlist for the Lasers. You'll find them all by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. For your Bearcats, go to binghamtonbearcats.com. And for your Lasers, go to onondagalazers.com. In the meantime, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I say God bless, no stress, do your best. I look forward to talking with you all soon. Stay safe and have a beautiful day.